on, dude? How's it going?
It's doing pretty good. How you been?
I'm pretty hungover right now. Yeah.
I am not, thankfully.
Yes, I appreciate that you're not. So
Yet.
you can. Yeah, man. So the part about you being a skydive instructor, I didn't know about is like how many jumps do you need to get into that?
So there's different levels of being a pro skydiver. The first level is called a coach. The coach rating, you need to have a minimum of 100 jumps, which isn't that many. And then you
For most people, that's a lot of jumts
well,
out of an airplane.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends. I mean, if you're doing it pretty regularly, then 100 jumps comes pretty fast. I mean, most regular skydivers will do 100 jumps in a year with no problem. And that's going maybe one weekend every weekend or even every other weekend. I mean, if you think about it, 52 weeks in the year, if you do 2 jumps every weekend,
Oh yeah.
bam, 100 jumps, right?
Well,
So
that would be more than that, right? It'd be
yeah,
52 weeks.
52 weeks. You
Oh
do-
yeah,
you
two
do
jumps.
2 jumps
Oh
every
my
weekend.
bad. Yeah,
That's
my
okay,
math
man.
is not.
You're hungover. So
I barely passed math for Marines, like the little booklets they have.
they're like, put one bullet in one gun, pull one trigger, one bullet go,
That's it.
and replace one bullet.
That's it, dude. Literally, the math problems would be like, all right, you have a squad of 12 guys and you have 11 guns. Like, who doesn't have a gun? And
The guy with the worst aim.
Yeah.
You have a squad of 12 guys. You come back with 10. What's your ratio of loss
What's the
that you care about?
combat losses? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's the qualifications through the USPA, which is the United States Parachute Association, which we're governed under the FAA, is 100 jumps minimum. And after 100 jumps, you sit through a coaching course, which is about a 3-day event. Usually about 6 to 8 hours every day with doing that, and it includes coursework, physically learning the stuff, being able to explain it, going through a whole teaching program, and then actually doing the jumps and showing that you can do the jumps with specific qualifications. Yeah, you have to be able to be within X number of feet from the student at any time. You have to be aware of what they're doing, what their equipment looks like. You have to do a very thorough equipment check from the time they pick up their equipment, because most of them are renting gear. So you're going to go and look at it, because you don't know who the last person was to touch this gear. So
Right.
every time they pick up a rig is what we call our parachute system. It's the container with the main parachute, the reserve parachute, and usually an AAD, which is an automatic activation device. It's a little electronic device that fires off at a certain altitude if you're still going at a certain speed. And so you have to check all that stuff, make sure it's on, make sure all the connecting systems are good. You do that at least 3 to 4 times from the time they pick it up until the time you get out of the airplane. And then after that, like I said, there's different things that you have to do with them. You have to, you want to teach them things, but you also want to be in a vicinity to keep them safe when you're doing that. So that's really about it. Once you get that going, then it's pretty much you just it's the first level of paid skydiving if you want to do it that way. I actually don't get paid. I tell them I don't want the money. I'm mainly there just to help them get better. The drop zone is actually good enough to set up a mentorship program, so anyone that's a coach can apply for the mentorship program, and anyone that has under 100 jumps, I can jump with them, and the drop zone covers my jumps for me. So
Yeah, that's really cool, man. So I didn't know you were doing this for free.
yeah, I don't pay people. I don't charge people for it. And then the nice thing is, I'll do anywhere from 50 to 100 mentor jumps in a year. So, I mean, saving me money on skydives. A paid skydive for me is $30 a jump, which doesn't sound like much when you're paying almost $300 for a tandem. But you got to remember, I'm doing almost $200 a year. So, looking at well over $3,000 a year for just skydiving alone, not including equipment and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, it becomes a costly You were telling me also the cost of like you got the cost of the rig, the cost of like whatever other equipment that you're gonna need, and so when I was doing the math on it and like the frequency, it takes like to go out to the sky to the drop zone and back again, because at least for DFW, like it's pretty far away,
Yeah.
pretty far haul. And I was thinking as a hobby, I'm like, dude, I love jumping out of the plane, but it's just like for me it's like a big time commitment. It's like a lot of time spent driving out there and stuff. And I think I love it though. I think it's a good time. But that's cool that you have like a sponsorship basically.
Yeah.
Like you're just sponsored by the drop zone.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of think of it that way. It's not really a sponsor, but yes, I mean, they want us there. The math has been done on frequency of jumps and whatnot for people, and it's been found that people that get at minimum 100 jumps will pretty much stay a skydiver for life. Anyone that stays under that, at some point they're going to quit and never go back. So it's just kind of it's nice to have the keep the numbers up, because if we don't have people out there jumping, then the planes don't go. So and if we can't fill the planes up, then I don't get to jump either. So but yes, there is a large time commitment. There is a huge monetary commitment initially. I mean, to go through the program to what's called, we used to call it AFF. So I've been skydiving I've been licensed for 23 years. I did my first tandem jump in 1991, and then started doing it on my own in 99, because I just had no idea that you could do it for fun. So, you start doing that, and with the AFF program, we had 7 jumps. It would cost somewhere around $1,600 for the entire 7 jumps to get it done, for the classroom work and the jumping. And then you had to jump, you had to get to a minimum of 25 jumps to get your A license to be able to jump with other people besides instructors. Now we have what's called an STP program, or student transition program. And this program takes you up to 17 jumps with instructors. So it's a much better way of doing it. It's very inclusionary, which is nice, because it's not like now you're not jumping by yourself, just solo jumps only, which, not only is kind of boring, but you can create bad habits if you don't have someone jumping with you and have reference points of doing things to know what your body's doing up in the air. So we do that. You still have to get 25 for an A license to be able to start jumping with your friends and whatnot. And then after that, each license level goes up. I think a B license is, 75 jumps. A C license is like 200, and a D license is 500 jumps, which is also the minimum that you need to become a tandem instructor. Sorry, I floated off there.
No, that's cool.
So yeah, minimum 500 jumps to start taking students up, or to take the course to become a tandem instructor, which is also a really good way of staying in the skydiving system, and getting a lot of fun jumps in and meeting people, which, as you know, is still pretty fun. I think you got 6 jumps now.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
So yeah.
6 or 7 or something.
Yeah.
I lost track of a few, but
yeah. And then after that, everybody's always like, "Well, when are you going to do it on your own?" It's like, "Well, I don't have $10,000,
Yeah. Well, that was it, man. Well, it was also you know what? I mean, if it's a hobby I love, I'll put in the time, and that's really the right answer to say. That's the true answer. But when I think it was you told me last time we jumped. For me to get the A license, you have to jump once every 30 days.
No, that's not to get it. That's to maintain it.
Right.
Yes.
So to maintain it. And so I was like, man, do I want to commit to always jumping once every 30 days? And I guess it's not a lot, but that just means that's like, there's a weekend where I'm going to be driving out there and spending a whole day out there pretty much. And so I was like, well, yeah, I don't know. If it was like a 20, 30-minute drive, it'd probably be no big deal. But
well, I mean, the requirements, we all have a minimum number of requiring jumps to stay current. For students and A licenses, it's 30 days, once every 30 days, to keep that, because there's a muscle memory that you need to maintain.
Yeah.
B license, I don't remember the jump, and I think it's 60 days. I could be wrong. For C and D licenses, it's gone up. It's 6 months. So I only have to jump once every 6 months to stay current.
Interesting.
But it's because I have a lot more jumps.
Right.
You know, like say if you're a student driver, just before you get your license, it's probably best that you're driving as much as possible and then maintaining that to keep that muscle memory so that you don't get the sensory overload and freak out. And it's the same with skydivers, right? You need to have that because it's pretty easy to forget things. You know, like I said, you get in there and there's the adrenaline rush, sensory overload, all that stuff from when you first start jumping that you don't necessarily get 2 and 3 and 4 years into it with a higher number of jumps.
Yeah, so I like that. I didn't realize that about the C and D, the 6 month thing, because now it's like, okay, how many jumps is to get to C again? What did you say?
It's like 200, I think, or 250.
200.
I'd have to go look it up.
So yeah, if you commit, you get the 200 jumps, and then you're golden. I mean, that's a pretty good 6 month time frame. But I appreciate you providing that insight into it, because it's like a diminishing skill, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't get on the rock very often climbing, and then you forget how to climb. But there's no license, there's no class, or there's nobody like overseeing that. So it's interesting to me that there's so much scrutiny and oversight for the skydiving. Like, what's that oversight look like? You said it's the USPA. But how do you what's your relationship with the USPA and the safety, the scrutiny, and all that? Do you feel like it's too much on top of you guys?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's the thing about skydivers, surfers, climbers. We all have our own lifestyles. Everything. We even have our own language and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Most of us get into those things because we don't want people telling us what to do and this and that. The problem with skydiving, more so than I think anything else, is that if something goes wrong, any little thing, the scrutiny of it is ridiculous. I mean, it goes skyrocketing through the news, through the social media. I mean, any little thing that happens, like the young lady that was 16 that was up in Oklahoma. Her father wanted her to get a skydive for her 16th birthday. Well, in Texas, you have to be 18 because your parents can't sign a release for you to do something like that. So they went up to Oklahoma. She had not even a malfunction. I mean, this was something so basic. She actually did a static line jump, which wasn't even a free fall skydive. But the news played it out as she was plummeting to the earth and all these horrible things, and she passed out and this and that. Apparently she had like a toggle fire, which is our steering lines, and all she had to do to correct it was pull the other one. It would stop her from turning. Well, she was in a slow turn. She hit the ground. I think she fractured her leg and had a small fracture in one of her vertebrae. But again, they made it out as if she shattered every bone in her body, and she may be a vegetable the rest of her life. And then within hours, she's doing a news cast from the hospital and up in Oklahoma. And then it turned into this massive lawsuit that the father sued the drop zone, saying, well, you shouldn't have allowed me to let her do it. So, then it turns into this most ridiculous things. And that's kind of the problem we have with that. It's like if some little thing happens, people are like, oh, you can die skydiving. Well, man, like something like 15, 20 people die a day in the Metroplex in cars. And we have the numbers to show. I think last year alone, I think there was 12 deaths skydiving in the United States in 12 months. And we have, of active licensed skydivers, I think there's somewhere around 30 or 40,000 in the United States. And we do somewhere near 3 million skydives a year. And to have 11 deaths, which they're all unfortunate, is not that bad. I mean, for an activity. I mean, like I said, you go down in your car, you're more at risk just driving someplace than going to jump. I mean, we are pretty high up on our safety standards. So going back to the question about the USPA, they do have oversight over us. We elect our own officials into it, and then they deal directly with the FAA, and that kind of keeps an intermediary. That way we don't just have people in the federal government jumping into our stuff because we have all the other issues with social media problems or something like that with something small. I personally don't have a problem with it. There are some people that do, but I mean, you can't make everybody happy. So,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, people can die walking in their backyard and slipping on something, and they fall and hit their head on the brick thing in the garden. Or I mean,
yeah,
you just hear it,
exactly,
and
yeah.
you're like, how do you die like that? You know? So it's in my mind, like dying doing a thing that you love to do seems like like I wouldn't ever want this to happen. But if you died jumping, like I'd be like, okay, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to hear that you died doing you slipped in your garden and hit it. Like, what a dumb fucking way to die.
I mean, with all the ways I've tried, it seems
Yeah.
like. But yeah, no, I have no desire to be going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm enjoying everything I'm doing. So I love skydiving, the scuba diving, the rock climbing, all my activities, man. I'm out there because I want to live, life to the fullest type thing versus, how much can I challenge I'm not into that, man. I just want to have fun. So,
Yeah.
I want to summit really cool climbs, and I want to dive wrecks, and I love being out in the ocean, and with the whale shark season and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just so yeah, no, I'm not looking to go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm glad. Have you whale shark season? Are you going to Cancun for that? Is that the spot?
Man, you can go during the year. I think it's April to September, so it's pretty much done now. But their migration for when they come in and have their babies. I don't know what you call a baby shark. Don't start the song.
I was like, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a cow. I don't know what you call them, but no, the season for when they go into the Gulf of Mexico, into the Caribbean to breed and have their young is past. So, but you can go to a lot of places. Last place I was at that was Belize. And we just missed the season, but it was you can go Grand Cayman, pretty much anywhere from Mexico all the way back out to the Bahamas, because they'll transition through there, just like the hammerheads and all that stuff. You always see the shark migration going through Florida, and everybody's freaking out. It's like, yeah, that's where they live, man. Leave them alone. So.
Yeah, I've dove all over the Caribbean. I did the Caymans, Bahamas, Cancun, Cozumel. I haven't done like the western edge, so I haven't done Belize or Costa Rica or anything like that. But
it's beautiful, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to check that out. One of those places. I want to do Aruba, Colombia, like down there too. Just see what's the other stuff going on in the Caribbean other than what's that?
I want to go to Aruba too, man. That's been my dream for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's in the that's that Beach Boys song, right? Aruba, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. Yeah. So
if you sing that, I will not go.
Yeah. All right. I promise not to sing it. But I've dove a bunch of places, a bunch of times, and I've never seen a shark any bigger than like what are those nursery sharks, lemon sharks, and I mean the dive master guy, he just has like a little harpoon. Or a trident, sorry. He has a trident with like a lionfish on it, and he just like plays with it. It's like a little dog chasing a treat, and then eventually he
gives it to him.
Yeah, gives him the treat or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, there's a bunch of fish out there, man. I just haven't seen whale sharks, and I've dove plenty between July and September out there.
You just got to get to the right place for them. I mean, it's I guess the best way to do that is check with wherever you want to go and see when their whale shark migration generally happens. I mean, they're coming in, then they're going out. So, but they're awesome, man. They're beautiful. That and the big turtles and stuff. I remember the last time I was in Belize, so we had a loggerhead swim up to us on our second of the last day there, and she was about 400 pounds, and her head was bigger than a football. It was just, it was amazing. It swam up. I mean, I've got a picture. She's maybe 3 inches from my face, just sitting there hanging out, and I was just like, yeah, this is so cool. And I was like, wow, that beak looks really sharp.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up a little bit.
Nice, man. So I did my rescue diver cert 2 years ago, I think.
Nice.
Now. I don't remember if I told you that or not, but
No, you didn't.
but I did the rescue diver cert, and there's a thing where it's the final culminating deal where you gotta rescue a guy. He's underwater, he's freaking out. He's trying to take your mask off, rip your regulator out of him. He's like attacking you underwater, and we're like 60 feet down, right? Yeah. So it's like this is it. This is the real shit, right? And so he's attacking, and so and then you got to rescue him, and then get him to the boat, and then do the whole medical
CPR,
medical thing or whatever. Yeah. So it's like a whole thing. And then so we do that whole thing. He rescues me, I rescue him, and then we did one final thing where I guess it's kind of a fuck around thing where you just attack each other under the water for like a couple minutes. and so the dude, it's a friend of mine, his name's Louie. Shout out to Louie and Odyssey Divers down there in Cancun. Awesome guy. But so he does this thing. He's like, go, and so we just go at it. We're attacking each other and everything, and it's just whatever his time is. Like, we don't know how long he's gonna have us do it, but we have to be able to like mess up the other dude while still getting the regulator back in, so we can have a breath. Yeah. I can have a breath, and get the mask back on because you can't see shit without the mask. And so it's this whole thing, and then so he's finally like, all right, stop, okay, and he's like, I forget the hand signal. It just can't be an official hand signal, but he did this thing where he's like, rah, rah, no more. And then we're like, oh, okay, we get it. But he just did this thing. So he did no more. And he's like, okay, let's go this way. And so we're going to go we're just going to go on a cruise dive now, right? We're just going to go have some fun. Right when he says we're done, and we start swimming, this Volkswagen Beetle-sized turtle starts floating by us. We're like, look at the size of this fucking thing. I mean, it was the biggest fucking turtle I've ever seen, man. It was the size of a car. I mean, and it was just floating by, and it was the really weird thing. It was floating against the current.
Yeah,
and it was still going fast. And it's a pretty solid current, and we were trying to keep up with it just to like take it all in, and we're trying to keep up with it. And I'm finning, and I have the rocket fins that you'll see like military people use, the heavy duty ones. It's just like burns out your thighs and hips if you don't have like a lot of practice with them. Most people like the thinner fins, but I like the heavy ones to really get some momentum going. And I'm finning my ass off, and I cannot keep up with this turtle. And it's just he's just barely
cruising,
whipping his little flippers or whatever they are, and he's gone, man. And I'm like, dude, we can't keep up with this guy. But I took it in. We kept up with him for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes or something. But this thing was just gorgeous, man.
It's cool, isn't it? Yeah, I love those things, man. The turtles are just the most awesome. And there's, they just pop up and they look at you. They kind of remind me of otters, but with big shells and stuff, just kind of checking you out. And then because they're always interested. They just want to come and check you out and look and see what you're doing, and then go, all right, I'm done, and then I'm out. So I got my master diver cert.
Oh, when?
I guess maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, cool, man.
I've been scuba diving, I guess, for 15 years ish. And so, you got to get the rescue diver and search and recovery and all that stuff that goes with it. And I had a blast with that class. It was the same thing. We had 6 people in our class, and one of them was one of my climbing, Scott. You know Scott.
Oh yeah.
So he was, he's a scuba diver, skydiver, climber, and man. So they not only were we doing 1-on-1, but we were doing 2-on-1. Like we'd have one rescuer go down with 2 people. And you had to figure out, okay, who was the one that was in trouble, and then sometimes the second person attacked you when you weren't expecting. So you were just like, son of a bitch, and they're jumping you doing stuff. And I just remember I had one guy, we were struggling and stuff, and he pulled my reg out, and I got it back in and took a deep breath without clearing it.
Oh,
all I felt was water going down my lungs. Yeah, my water's went down my lungs, and all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, I really am choking.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to cough it up with no actual air, and he's like coming at me, and I actually punched him in the nose to get him away from me so I could get up. But we were like 30 or 40 feet down, and trying to struggle through getting a good breath through the regulator while you're coughing up water was a bad thing. So
Yeah, getting that dirty breath, man, and that's the whole training thing is like you got to train for that because you get that dirty breath and you're deep down, and now you're supposed to be the rescuer, and now you're freaking out.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
and now you don't know what to do, and you want to just grab anybody's shit out of their mouth and
to get them away from
yeah.
you. Yeah, no, I liked the stuff I never thought about. I mean, you think about people freaking out. The first thing they tell you is just you got to keep them away from you so you don't have two victims instead of
Exactly.
just one.
Yeah.
And I thought the funnest part of the class was learning how to use my fins to kick people, to keep them off of me. And it's like they're like, yeah, if they're doing that, wait until they pass out, then get them up. And I'm like, that's a good idea, if you can't save them while they're struggling, wait till they pass out, get them up, start CPR then. It's better off. So
Yeah, it sounds heartless, but it's like you got to do
what you got to do.
If I'm going to rescue you, I can't have you attacking me. Then, like you said, two victims. We did this thing years ago. Well, it still exists, but they have this thing in the Marine Corps, like a rescue swimmer portion. You have different swim quals, and I don't know if they still have this, but it would be like level 4 through 1, and then and 4 is like the most basic. Like I can barely swim, and I can at least jump off the tower with my stuff, and all that. So and I can like pull my pack that's floating. I can pull that, and it's very basic. Then level 3 gets more advanced. Level 2, and then level 1 is like where you're now slick. All your gear is off, and I don't know that there's a whole thing with weighted stuff, but it's mainly about like, can you do a 50 meter underwater? Can you do all this? Can you swim laps in so many minutes? It's like more advanced. And then WSQ gets even more to where you're rescuing guys. You're doing this oil fire simulation. You're not. They don't actually like doing oil fire on the water, but they do. They do a whole simulation. That'd be a big problem.
The washout is massive in that class.
Yeah, attrition is just through the roof, man. Nobody's making it.
One.
Yeah, one dude made it. Yeah, he's scarred for life.
Yeah.
So they've got this thing where you jump off the tower. It's like the high 30, 40 feet or something like that. I don't remember the height. And it's like a real high tower, and you got to pencil dive in, and then you have to do this splashing of the water as you're swimming. And you have to be underwater most of the time, and you're splashing it to like
move it away from you.
Yeah, clear the oil away. Well, then the next phase of that is rescuing. And they do this thing where they teach you pressure points on people and stuff. And so they're like, okay, if you like get up into their armpit, and you can pinch that like kind of on the arm, but just past the armpit, there's like you press into this thing, and it does not feel good. Like if I push it into myself, like if you push there, you can feel.
Yeah, it's where the brachial plexus starts.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel good. You can do the radial nerve on the forearm, and just different, And then you could ultimately do what you did, punch him in the nose.
Sometimes you just gotta do what you can do.
Yeah, but I did this thing where so I learned those things from the military. So when I did the rescue course, I was like pressure pointing my dude the whole time, and he was like,
"Ow,
like,
get off me!
What are you doing? How do you know how to push all these things, man? Because they're not teaching that in the PADI cert, the rescue cert course. But it was just like, well, yeah,
they should.
I learned some stuff, man. I know.
It's Marine style saving you, brother.
I got a particular set of skills. And, if you just bring the girl back, everything right. we'll forget about the whole thing.
That's right. My particular skills is I like to eat tacos, but that's what I got.
Yeah. Well, that's like a nice taco after a dive is it's a good day.
Yeah, it's a good day. Get some grilled pork in there or something. Unless you're vegetarian, then just get some grilled seagrass in there.
Grilled seagrass.
Is that a thing?
Your only choice is either grilled pork or some shitty seagrass.
Well, you get some lemon on it, I guess. Lemon's tasty.
Yeah, man. So I love the diving. Have you done any like dry suit stuff?
No, I have not. I don't like being cold.
Amen.
So the only reason to wear a dry suit is when you're in the really cold water.
Right.
Close as I've come, I do own a 7mm wetsuit. I got a chance to go dive. There's a decommissioned nuclear missile silo in Abilene.
Ooh.
That I can't remember the actual missile that was in it, the type of missile, but they call it Valhalla. I don't believe that's the actual type of missile it was, but it was a solid fuel missile in a chamber. The chamber is 180 feet, and it's I never knew this. I always thought that whole area was just desert, but there's an aquifer that runs under the area, and so they had to keep pumps running to keep it dry. And when they decommissioned it and pulled everything out, they turned off the pumps. Well, now the thing is full of fresh water that is soaked into it over the years, and it's about 120 feet of water, and it is one of the darkest, coldest things I've ever been in my life, man. It's surface temps year round are 60 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
And the closer you get to the bottom, obviously, the colder it gets.
Yeah.
And so I wore a 7 mil wetsuit with a hood and all this other stuff. And man, it was miserable. I got as close, I think, to hypothermia as I've ever been in my life. Because you go in through the staging area from where the missile control used to be. And it's really cool because you go up there. It's this big field with nothing around it, and this little shack-looking thing that you just think, okay, that's where some farmer keeps some crap in there. Maybe it's a well pump or something. Then you get up to the door, and the door is massive. It's like it's probably like a 4 by 8 foot door that's like 16 inches thick of steel. And you swing this thing open, and you go down this really ominous, set of stairs. It's about 3 floors down, about 30 feet down, and you get to the staging area, and then you come in, and you're still about 20 feet above the staging platform for the water, and you got to go down this pretty precarious little thing that they built to get there. And getting down there's no big deal, but coming back up, soaking wet and being in water that near the bottom was probably closer to about 45 degrees for a good 20-30 minutes. You come up and everything's shaking, and you're trying to climb back up with still having all your gear. Man, I was like, I'm not going to make it back up to the top of this damn thing. But I got 2 dives in there, and it was really fun. It was cool, and I swore I'd never do it again. So I've got this really awesome 7 mil wetsuit that I'll probably never wear again. But I knew I didn't like being cold, but I didn't realize how cold that was. But like the total use of your hands and fingers was gone. Like you couldn't move them at all. It's just like being outside in the snow with no gloves on for 20 or 30 minutes or whatever, an hour. And then your hands are just not moving very well, and you're trying to get things going. But yeah, it probably took me a better part of an hour just to warm back up. And then have to get back in because you had to do 2 dives while you were there. So to get the, I can't remember which one that was. With PADI, we do certain things, and you get certified for certain levels. And I think that
was an elective or something.
Yeah, I think that was an altitude dive because Abilene is like 1,400 or 1,600 feet above sea level. So a little bit higher up than we are. So.
How does that change? Because I haven't done anything like an altitude, which 1,400 feet doesn't sound like a lot, but how does that change the conditions for diving?
Honestly, if you get there and acclimate for about 7 to 10 hours, it really doesn't. It's about the same as diving anywhere else. But if you just get there, like driving from Dallas, which is only about 700 feet above sea level, 700 to 800 feet, that means that the pressure changes with the way you breathe. The air is a little bit different. The other thing you have to look at too is if you do a dive and then you drive higher, it's not too dissimilar of doing a dive and then getting in an airplane. You're not supposed to fly for minimum 12 hours after a scuba dive, up to at least 24 hours depending on how deep you were down and how long you were in there, kind of thing. So yeah, that's the other thing with the hobbies is I can skydive and then scuba dive, but I can't scuba dive and then skydive in the same day.
Right.
So because you can get the bends. So, but yeah, as far as that goes, just knowing where you're going, if you're changing altitudes significantly before or after, I guess more after a dive, you got to watch which way you're going because nitrogen bubbles can build up, and then that's no fun. So.
Yeah, I had this idea for I think it already exists, but this idea for like super rich executives that want to go do some like crazy stuff. They never had a chance to do it before. You do a thing where you like do a skydive into water, and then you transition into a dive, and then you do like this amphibious landing onto a beach, and then you do some kind of event, you know, it's like on an island or somewhere, and then you do some kind of like a shooting package, or you do like a hostage rescue or something like that, and it's like they get to do a whole mission. But it involves like skydiving, scuba diving. Maybe there's some climbing in there or something to like get to the point, you know, to the hostile camp or something like that, right? And
That'd be fun.
But yeah, I always thought that'd be like a badass company to have, like something to do like that.
Yeah. Well, there actually are events. We do events. I say we as a skydiving community. We have our parties are called boogies. Why boogie? I have absolutely no idea, but. There is a boogie that happens at least once a year where you, like over in Belize, the Blue Hole generally, you skydive into the Blue Hole, and then you peel off your gear and you can go scuba diving again after that. There's actually, I think they're going to be in Tahiti this year or something like that, or one of the islands out in the Pacific. And then there's also used to be one called the Shoot and Shoot. I think it was in Louisiana or Mississippi, where you would skydive in, and you'd land for accuracy, and then you also had pistols, rifles, shotguns, and full auto machine guns shooting for accuracy as well. So there are events where you can go do that. You just got to know where to look. But you have to be a licensed skydiver already, and to have a certain level. You can't be like an A licensed skydiver and go jump one of these things, because the accuracy is different. You got to know how the winds are blowing and stuff while you're coming in onto a beach or anything like that. It's not the same as being like, you know, here in Dallas, where it's relatively consistent. Like, when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be just about the same as when you go to bed in the evening, versus being out on a beach somewhere where who knows which way the wind's going to be blowing in, and it's going to blow strong. So controlling your canopy. But
yeah, they don't want even an A license. They're like, we don't want any amateurs over here. We want like
even to jump from a helicopter, you have to have a minimum of a B license, just because it's a little bit different than leaving an airplane.
Why is that? Why does the B license? Why is that necessary for the helicopter?
Honestly, man, I don't know. That's a USPA thing, is why it was set, and my guess is just experience level. Leaving an airplane or a hot air balloon or something like that, your relative winds are coming from a different position than what you're used to. When I leave an airplane, the relative wind is coming from wherever the prop is. Right. So when I get out the door, the propeller is pushing at me. When I leave a helicopter or a hot air balloon, the relative wind is nothing. It's like once you get out, you're in free fall, man, and you can't control what you're doing as far as body positioning and stuff like that until you've picked up enough speed to get wind resistance.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because you're jumping out of the plane's traveling, so you have some momentum automatically.
Correct. Yeah, and you can actually start steering your body pretty much as soon as you get out the door. And of course, you don't normally know that. And I remember my first helicopter jump. Nobody told me that. I got out. I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, shit. I start swimming everywhere thinking, oh, I'm going to die. And then all of a sudden I'm going fast enough to make movements. And so it was.
So you jumped out and you felt no ability to control.
Yeah. That's the one time in skydiving that you feel like you're on a roller coaster, that whole dropping sensation.
Yeah.
You're just like, when you get out of an airplane, the airplane's going approximately 100, 115 knots.
Mm-hmm.
You step out the door, you're moving at 115 knots, and then you transition that down into into vertical speed. When you leave a helicopter or a hot air balloon, you're going to zero, and you're accelerating really fast, and that gives you that dropping sensation that just kind of like, if you're not expecting it, it's a little unnerving. So.
Yeah, I that's the one thing I thought is like jumping out of an airplane. I don't feel that sinking gut. I'm on a swing, or like I've been bungee jumping, and that gives you that like that crazy gut feeling. But yeah, I never understood why. I was like, yeah, people are like, oh, I'm scared of the feeling that you're gonna have when you jump out. I'm like, you don't feel that.
No.
It just doesn't it just feels like falling into a cloud or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
To me, skydiving's
soft.
feels like you're just floating in really fast water.
Yeah.
But that's from an airplane. Yeah. I've never base jumped. I've been wanting to base jump for years, but I mean, obviously, base jumping would give you a very similar sensation because you're starting at 0 miles an hour and
Yeah.
accelerating to whatever speed you can get to before you open your parachute. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't done like base jumps because I know you've been doing wingsuit stuff too, right?
I have about 360 wingsuit jumps, but I have not jumped a wingsuit in probably 7 or 8 years. So
okay.
yeah, I just kind of stopped. We had a pretty decent wingsuit community where I skydived for a while, and then it kind of faded out. And I mean, skydiving's always fun. Wingsuiting's great, but after if you're doing it without somebody, if you're just doing it by yourself, it does start to get boring.
Yeah.
We've got an excellent wingsuit community now. I just never got back into it. Ever since they kind of started back up, I've been doing other things. I've been doing the coaching. I've been just fun jumping. I've been shooting videos for people and stuff. So I just never had a chance to get back into it, and it just maybe at some point, I don't know, but
well, everything's better together, right? Like name anything, name any kind of sport or activity. It's like, why did you do it? It's like, well, how did the way I got into rock climbing was because I don't think you ever met him, but a buddy of mine, Steven, he had a Groupon. He goes, hey, let's go to the climbing gym. You want to check out this thing? I got a Groupon for it. I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, that was it. It was like somebody, I was already friends with somebody, and then it connected. But then, I met you through climbing and stuff. It's like, can you imagine us doing like the Cuba trip we did, but like alone?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have been as fun.
No, yeah, it definitely would have sucked. Yeah. I mean, climbing by itself is just an awesome experience, but definitely doing it with people that you enjoy being with and that are good at it, makes it a whole different thing. I mean, bouldering in Cuba would have been boring, man.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing that would have been nicer would have been somehow to do some trad stuff, but traveling with all that trad gear, and I don't think trad in that limestone would have been very good at all. I think we would have just been busting up rock left and right. But
yeah,
that's the first time I've ever climbed anything besides granite, and that was awesome. So
yeah, Cuba was Brad, man. And you're absolutely right. Like I don't think you're supposed to climb limestone with trad gear because of
blowout pieces.
Yeah, I mean, you remember that? So we came to this La Cueva. What was the? I'm getting the name wrong, but anyway, it meant the big cave.
Yeah.
Cuerva?
Oh yeah, where that lady fell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We remember we showed up and there's just ropes and blood and they left all their shit, and we're like, something bad happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that lady. I mean, you could see those pieces were sharp too, man. Yeah, they said she fell and just caught her arm on one piece, and it just ripped her arm open. And I was like, ooh, that sounds horrible, because that was at least a 3-mile hike for us to get there.
Yeah.
And there was no hospital in Vinales that I remember.
There's not.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, there was really good food, but there was no hospital.
Dude, that food, dude.
There was Raul's.
Yeah. Raul's is the house we stayed at.
Raul Reyes was the place where we got the cabrita.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Where we were hanging out in the hammocks and drinking.
Where
he made us rum and stuff on his property. Yeah.
So I love the first day. So it's like, we're going to go to the his little backyard, basically. I mean, his whole farm has like a bunch of climbing in his backyard. And so you remember, because I don't know a ton of Spanish, but I know enough to get the gist of it. So I remember he came up to us and he's like, hey, I'm Raul. I remember that. And this is my farm. Welcome. You're welcome to go climb.
Just buy something as you leave. Yeah.
Exactly. Buy something on your way out.
And he had that big ass machete. Yeah.
Dude, that meal
was amazing.
That was one of the most life-changing meals I've ever had.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? I mean, sitting there just like Raul was quintessential freaking Cuba, man. I mean,
perfect, yeah.
He was growing, coconuts, bananas, papayas, mangoes. He had all the tobacco. Sugar cane. I mean, dude made his own rum, made his own cigars. He had coffee. You remember he was drying all that coffee out there. And I still remember sitting there while we're eating and just like, God, this is amazing food. And then we hear goats in the background going, bah. And I was like, oh, shit, I wonder if this thing was alive this morning.
Dude, it was totally just alive. Like, remember, it took a long-ass time for them to make the meal.
Yeah,
and so I'm thinking, I'm like, did they just kill this goat?
I was
Like, is
thinking
it
the same
fresh?
thing.
Like, that would just, and it's weird, man, because you hear the goats making their noise, and you look over, and you're like, we're eating your brother right now, man.
They're like,
you
Dave? Dave? Where are you, Dave?
The goat's name is Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Daves in Cuba. Come on, man.
Yeah. Dave the goat. Dave the Cuban goat.
Yeah. Sitting there with a cigar in one hand and a Coco Loco in the other hand.
Oh, yeah, man. Dude,
that coconut with the rum and the mint and cinnamon that he put in there. God, that was so good.
Dude, I asked for him to make, because, yeah, he had a bunch of cocktails. What's amazing, the guy's a farmer, but he also knows how to make cocktails and all the stuff.
Yeah.
But I asked him for a mojito. I was like, I want to try a classic mojito on a farm in Cuba. Like, this is quintessential, right? Like, you got to do it. And he to get the mint, he goes around. I'm watching him make the drink because I want to see the whole process, right? How's he going to do it maybe differently than like a bar or restaurant? He goes out, he leaves his little, he had the little shack or whatever. He leaves the shack, goes outside, and I go to see what he's doing out there. He had scissors, and he's growing the mint behind the shack.
Yeah.
He cuts the mint off the plant, like fresh,
Yeah,
and then like
awesome,
starts
right?
muddling it and stuff. And I'm like, bro, like
I
this
know.
is
And then
amazing.
The best part, $1. So
Yeah.
he literally charged us $1 for
It
everything.
was $1.
I think the
for this.
meal was $3. So
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember the prices, but I do. Yeah, the cocktails were $1.
$1. Yeah,
Yeah,
$1
and-
American dollar, and they were probably going to get raided by the Treasury Department for leaving American dollar there now.
Did we do? I thought we had
No,
Cuban
that's
converted.
Right. That's right. We did.
We convert to
yeah.
Cuban
kooks. Kooks.
Kooks.
Yeah.
What's the
Pesos.
What's the one? There's the people's money.
That's the peso.
Okay.
And the kook was the transitionary money that everyone except for Cubans was able to use. So,
Okay.
like, it was supposed to be illegal for us to have one of their pesos.
Well, no, I think it was that you can't take it home with you.
You can't. You weren't supposed to take anything home with you.
Yeah.
But what Cuban workers got were pesos, and what we got when we changed money was the kook.
Yeah, I know we were allowed to possess both currencies while we were there.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah, because it's what it is that you can use the people's money to go buy stuff at the grocery store and just get a soda or buy a sandwich at a shop or something like that's totally cool. But hotels wouldn't take it.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
then
sense.
and they would only take the transitional money or American dollars or your credit card or whatever. But it was weird how like you have to have a currency for different things, different activities.
Yeah.
And sorry, Cuba, but I did take some of the currency with me.
Yeah.
But I do a money collection. So I have every place that I've been to, every country I've been to, I have just a couple bucks.
Yeah.
It's not Jason Bourne where I have a safe in the bank or it's nothing like
with a visa or
the 5 guns and eight passports and it's nothing like that. But I just keep a couple bucks from every place I've been to, and that's like my little treat that I do.
Yeah.
Keep the currency.
I actually brought a couple of their dollars home, and I actually gave them to. There used to be or there still is a Cuban bakery and coffee house over here. Over here by me.
Yeah. That's off of Old Denton, isn't it?
No, it's off of Josie.
Okay,
so that's
that's
the
right, yeah.
original one. The one that was in downtown Carrollton closed. The one that was in the square closed.
Okay.
But the one on Josie's still there. And I gave it to those ladies because they have different denominations and stuff posted up. So, and they're from Cuba. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of cool that they framed it and stuck it on the wall. So,
That's
kinda
cool,
neat.
man.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not very big, but there's a kind of a mini little Cuban population in DFW. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
well, you'll notice it based on the restaurant locations. If you Google Maps like Cuban restaurant, you'll see like a cluster of them,
Oh, okay.
and you're like, oh, okay. There's a Cuban bakery, there's a Cuban restaurant. There's a few of them in that North Carrollton, the Colony. like kind of is stretched in that little
Okay. I'll have
little
to
area.
Check that out.
Yeah, but there's the bakery's good.
Yeah.
And then the restaurant has well, there's a few restaurants, but the one that I've been to a few times, I forget what it is. They got some kind of lemonade mango drink or something. It's like she brings it to me, and like before she has a chance to turn around and walk away, it's like it's gone, man.
Yeah. Can I
suck-
get another?
Yeah.
Can I have 2 of these right off the bat?
Yeah, just you're gonna have to bring 2
Yeah.
because the first one's getting sucked down like right away.
And I
but-
need some rum in there, if you don't mind.
yeah, definitely.
Oh.
Yeah, man. So that Cuba trip was pretty awesome.
That was
The
awesome.
climbing.
Yeah,
the
it
climbing
was
good.
so weird though, because I mean we got there, it was like literally 3 days after Fidel Castro died, so everything was shut down.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Remember?
about that.
They had like the 8 or 9 days of mourning, so it's like the entire time we were there, the country was in mourning, like forced mourning.
Yeah, it's like mandatory sadness. Yeah.
And the people were like, "God damn!" I don't know if they knew what was going to happen next, but yeah, what did his brother end up taking over? Is it who?
Yeah. It was his brother.
Yeah, his younger brother.
I'm terrible
Yeah.
with geopolitics. Man.
Yeah, I am too, man.
I'm pretty sure it was his brother. It's his name is on the tip of my tongue. You got Fidel and Arturo rings a bell. Is that?
Man, I'd have to. Google.
Everyone's gonna be mad at us if we don't.
Nah, they'll be okay.
His name is Frank.
Yeah. Slim Shady.
Slim Shady. Slim Shady Castro.
Yeah.
He's a lot cooler than his.
Yeah, he's blonde.
He's blonde.
He dyes his hair a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Dude, one of the things that I loved about the Cuban culture is they're so social.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, they were awesome, weren't they? Just the nicest people. Everybody.
Big time.
You know, you just don't know what to expect, and you get there, and I know right before you and Brendan showed up, Chris and I were there, and we were there, I think maybe a day or 2 before y'all got there. And dude, we were walking around. Everybody wanted to come talk to us. And I'll say the funny part was everybody speaks Spanish to Chris, because he looks a little bit more like he's got some Latin in him.
Yeah.
And he'd look at me, and I'm like, "What the hell are you looking at me for, man? I don't speak any more Spanish than you do." But yeah, man. I mean, it's just, you know, we walked around there, and you just like, if there's places around here where it's sometimes, you know, you're like, yeah, I'm not going down there. It looks a little shady, man, and it looks a little sketch. And we were there. We were walking around old downtown, or old Havana.
Yeah.
Just through the neighborhoods and going into people's houses. Everybody's inviting us in and giving us food. It's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're giving us food and rum, and we're just all talking, having a great time. I mean, dude, we probably walked 15 miles.
Yeah.
That first night we were there, just going all over the place and just meeting people and seeing all the sights, and I can only imagine what it would be like if they weren't mourning, you know, if they weren't sad. So
so they had and you saw this too. We were walking down the street. The thing I loved is that and this may be a thing that's kind of forced by the government, but they have like these Wi-Fi hotspots at different
parks and stuff,
sectors, like parks, and like every few blocks there's like a Wi-Fi hub, and so maybe just that people don't have internet. I don't know, but at home, but you'd see a cluster. You'd see like 300 people just standing in a massive
with
fucking
their cell phones,
with their cell phones out, and you're like, what's going on here? Like, you know, it took a minute to figure out, but you're like, oh, they're all just chatting. They're all doing the internet, and so they're interneting together.
Yeah.
Nobody's alone in their basement, just, you know, doing whatever shit they're gonna do on the internet. Like they're
meatloaf, you know.
But they're all together, and so the families are out there, and it's like a whole social thing. It's like getting on the internet is like a social event.
Yeah.
And you all hang out together, and you're on Facebook, and you're like, hey, look at this thing, and everyone's just spending time together outside on the internet. And I'm like, this is a type of like connectivity that I love with technology, because working in technology, sometimes it can be kind of an isolating thing, because it's like, here's the tech work and you're just doing it by yourself and you're in front of a computer, and then, you know, just kind of feels, especially with the pandemic, everyone's just by themselves in front of a computer at home. It's just like the most depressed the world has ever been.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not, you know, dark ages probably were worse, but but it was just like, it was so refreshing to just see like all these people gathered together And
Yeah.
and you're right, man. People invite you in, and well, I forget. Do you remember the name of the rooms? So like, it's not Airbnb.
Casa Particulares.
That's it, man.
Yeah, and they had all those cool old cars were taxi particulars.
Ah, okay.
So you could get a government-funded taxi, which were the yellow taxis, and they were a lot more expensive. Or you could get a 1962 Cadillac or a
Coupe de Ville.
Yeah. I remember actually being in a Ford Fairlane that we took from Havana to Valle de Vinales.
Yeah.
And the dude charged us $25 for 120 miles one way.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'm in a Ford Fairlane, man.
Yeah.
This thing was made in the 60s. I felt like I was do you remember that caddy we were in going to the beach and
Oh yeah.
that had all the
yeah.
the diesel smoke in the back seat? I thought we were gonna die. I was like, but yeah, I mean, they just had the coolest cars there, man. I've got like hundreds of pictures of these old model, these Ford Model Ts and stuff like that. So,
Dude, my favorite one was, I think because there was a point where you and Chris broke off to do something at the end of the trip.
yeah,
It was like the last day, and I don't remember how it all panned out, but it's like ended up to where Brendan and I are going to the airport together, and then you and Chris
went together. Yeah,
I think you had already left, or different flight times or something. But
Yeah.
Brendan and I are leaving, and the dude that owns the Casa Particulares we were staying owned a '55 Bel Air, and this thing is in mint condition, bro. Like, it is perfect. I got some pictures of it, and the inside and the outside. I'm like, the paint job is perfect. I mean, everything's just in. I'm like, how did you maintain this thing, man? Because the whole deal is like they have this black market of old car parts.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, you can't. It's very hard to get parts, and they don't have just like a parts store for 55 Bel Airs, man. Like, you gotta. But I think the importing of them, they have to smuggle them in or something like that. And so it's like everyone knows that it's done, but it's just like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It's like people smoking weed now in the States, like, whatever. Like,
yeah, everybody knows you're doing it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the fair the other day, man. It's just like, all right, cool. Everybody's just doing whatever, because I feel like I got a contact high walking around this damn
People are
place.
smoking weed at the fair.
Yeah, I was just like, well, I guess nobody gives a shit. But
Yeah.
I mean, why would you? I mean, it's stupid for it to be illegal, but
Yeah.
whatever. So
Well, there's I mean, it's weird that people are even just smoking weed straight up outside in a state where it's illegal, when there's other stuff. You can just get vape or edibles or something like that, and you can get the same
Same stuff,
thing.
yeah.
So I feel like they're like, it's a little bit of a fuck you kind of thing. You know?
I'm at the state fair. Fuck the man.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like,
here's for you, Big Tex.
yeah. Yeah.
Howdy, y'all.
This one's for you, Big Tex. Or how do you? I don't know what
I don't know.
This is a lady's cigarette or something, right?
I have no idea, bro.
Yeah.
I don't smoke any.
No, I know. I'm just saying. But when you see it in a movie or people doing it, it's like, this is the Virginia Slim. This is a joint,
Yeah.
right?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
It looks okay. Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. Oh, I wonder what what are you supposed to do with a cigar? I think it's just this, but it's like a bigger this.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not much of a cigar guy.
Yeah.
But there's rules. There's rules for how you smoke. It's like you can't smoke a certain thing the wrong way. They're like, oh, that's kind of a weird
Now
thing.
you're questionable, and we're gonna have to ban you.
Yeah.
Cancel culture kicks in because you held your cigarette incorrectly.
Yeah, I always loved the
I think with a vape, you have to cover halfway, like so it doesn't blow up in your face, type thing.
What do you mean?
Remember they were exploding for a while.
Oh yeah, the battery, right? It would keep heating up, and it wouldn't stop heating up, and then it just it would blow up.
Yeah, it was like a Samsung tablet. So.
Oh yeah, well the Note 7, that was the
was
phone was blowing up. I was gonna buy that thing because I was big into the Notes for a long time, so I had the Note 4.
Yeah.
And then I always skip a 2 or 3 generations, and so then I did I was gonna get the Note 7, and then they were like, yeah, whoa, excuse me. And then they're like, they're blowing up. And I was like, oh, okay. So then everyone had to wait like an extra year for the Note 8 to come out.
Yeah. Well, because you couldn't take those things on airplanes or anything.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah. Technology.
Yeah, right. So what's going on with climbing with you now, man? Because you and I haven't touched rock together in quite a bit.
Long time. Chris and I were supposed to go to Patronage that next year after we got back from Cuba. I guess that was 2017, and something happened, and fortunately we didn't go because apparently the week we were supposed to go, a monsoon hit for like the entire week. So we'd have gone down there and not gotten anything done, and then after that, everything just kind of went downhill. I think. But I think I climbed outside one time in 2017 up in the Wichitas, and after that, I haven't been outside since. So I need to get together with some people. I know I got a lot of people that I jump with that are pretty good climbers, and they go to Horseshoe Canyon quite a bit up in Arkansas and whatnot. My mother lives 5 minutes from the entrance to the Gunks up in New York.
Oh, cool.
Chris and I went and climbed up there once. We spent like a week up there a few years back. But so yeah, man, I just haven't been traveling anywhere, and it has nothing to do with COVID. I just haven't been traveling. So
yeah, so the rock types are different. Like you hit up East Coast rock, because I've done New Hampshire. A few places in Massachusetts, and I don't like the East Coast rock, man.
Yeah, like up in New York, it's mostly granite. That I know that what we were mostly on in the Gunks was granite, but it was so overclimbed that everything was super slick. It wasn't near as tacky as the granite that we get in the Wichitas up in Oklahoma, or even Enchanted Rock. Enchanted Rock is some pretty good tacky stuff, but I think some of that is sandstone along with the granite that's up there. So
Enchanted Rock,
yeah, isn't it?
Okay. I don't remember, man. I haven't hit up Enchanted Rock for a while.
Yeah.
I did a trip out there where there's like the backside of the dome, and it's like a trad, multi-pitch kind of deal. Super easy. I mean, the ledge is massive. I mean, you could have probably free soloed it or something, but it was just we were getting cycles on the gear. That was like at the early days of me doing trad and stuff. Yeah. Well,
setting pro when you're doing trad is a little unnerving when you first start doing it. I still don't feel good about setting, especially with setting it and then building an anchor at the top. I'm just like, I don't need to kill two people. But I mean, I much prefer cleaning, so that way I don't have to worry about what I built and if it doesn't work, and so
yeah. Well, it's a comfort level thing, right? It's like for me, unless I know I'm with a trad person that's like super seasoned on it, I'd prefer to set the anchor, just because it's like I know that I'm gonna be like super anal about it, and
it's gonna work.
3 pieces of pro. It's gonna be equalized and balanced and all. I'm gonna make sure, and because that's the thing why I don't do trad so much, because it just takes so damn long, man.
Yeah,
it takes so damn long to set the anchor,
and the equipment gets heavy. I mean, it's climbing. Any other way is not bad because it's just your harness, your shoes. But when you're walking up there and you've got twice as much gear as you need just in case something fails or you drop it. I mean, you're trying to climb sometimes with an extra 30 or 40 pounds of gear, and it gets tiring, man. And it's so funny how top roping something and just running up it feels so different than leading the exact same route. You're just like,
the headspace is very different.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing knowing that when you fall, you're gonna fall. If it's a 6 foot piece, then you're gonna fall 12 feet, and you're hoping it doesn't just smack you into the wall. There's definitely some mental aspect to that. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think the rock type, like getting back to like the East Coast versus West Coast rock or whatever.
yeah,
I'm thinking
it's
Rockies
gang
or something.
battles, man.
Yeah. Well, but it's comfort level too. It's like if you're on some bomber sandstone, dude, I can climb that shit all
Oh,
day
yeah.
long. I can climb. It feels like I can climb 2 grades harder
Yes.
because my feet are not going anywhere. It's
Yeah.
like I'm on bulletproof, especially that dark sandstone that's in like the Red Rock outside of Vegas. Like,
Yeah.
dude, that stuff is solid, man. I mean, it's just so it boosts confidence, man.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like my confidence level is up. I feel like I'm faster with the gear. I feel like I'm faster on climbing. Everything's just it just feels better. And
Yeah.
so, I had a good time out east just because good company, good friends, and it's never a bad day when you're climbing. But it's like hitting that sandstone is always fun. But granite, dude, like I started out. I think similar to you. Did you start out in the Wichitas?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went with Chris. The first time I ever climbed outside was with him 12, 14 years ago, something like
Okay.
that. Up in the Wichitas, yeah.
Yeah, so that's granite, and that's my first outside too. Is
Yeah.
hitting up the Wichitas,
Yeah.
and then
Lower Mount Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's where everybody starts.
That's the starting point, man. I mean, it's a great spot. You get out of the car and you walk 5 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's like, and then there you are. But yeah. So learning trad on granite, like that's, and I feel like I've kind of devolved from there because. Now I want to do sport on sandstone, and I want the conditions to be nice and stuff. And I think ultimately I just want to maximize my climbing.
Yeah.
And so if in a day I can get like, 12 to 15 single pitch routes in or something, that's probably a big day.
That's a lot.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. My bad. No. If I can get like eight pitches in, single pitch routes in a day, like that's a good day. And and so, but if I'm doing trad, I'd rather just do multi-pitch.
Yeah, because that's the only way you're going to get it. I mean,
Yeah.
getting up there and then having to wrap down and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I'd rather do, even if it's just a 3-pitch route, I'd rather do that than do a whole bunch of single pitch routes. Just because I feel more accomplished, I guess, man. It's like how many people, there's a lot of people that have never even climbed real rock, much less do a single pitch anyway.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's nice getting out there and doing that kind of stuff. And just, you feel like you're one with nature. So
I am connected to the rock. Yeah.
So,
Well, I did. You got to get out to. Have you done Potrero Chico?
no, that's
Mexico?
what I was talking about. We were
Okay.
supposed to go. It got rained out. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that place is badass, man.
Yeah.
Like I went back earlier this year in January, I think, and it wasn't as great of a trip because I went solo,
Oh, yeah.
and I picked up some, just climb with some hippies I found, and
Yeah.
there's I stayed at one place with Chris, and that was kind of like a quieter place. There's the other place that's like the spot, man. Like all the climbers are staying there,
Yeah.
and we didn't know that at the first time. So the second time, I hung out there, and I just went there in the morning, and I just said, hey man, anybody like, that's the cool thing about the climbing community. Like, hey, anyone need a partner or something? And so I found, it was actually a group of 3 girls, and they were all friends from someplace, and they're like, yeah, you can join us. And so partnered up with them, but they weren't multi-pitching, so I was like, oh man, okay, no worries.
At least you got on something, though.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing. That's like you said, everybody's just looking to share, which is cool.
Yeah.
Share the rock, share the community kind of thing. So
Yeah, but there's a thing you got to try, man. It's a nickname, the shark fin, or I don't remember the name of the route, but there's a 4-pitch. It's pretty cruiser. It's like a 10A or something like that, and you get to the top of it, and the ledge, it's a shark fin, so it's a vertical face on both sides, like all the way down. So there's like several routes, but there's this one where we climbed up to it, and we had lunch on the top of this thing, and it's
cool.
And there's like a sheer face
On either side.
on both sides, and we're just kind of hanging out on top of this thing, having lunch, and we're just, a few hundred feet up or something like that,
Yeah,
and just
awesome,
looking down at the canyon below, and it's like, it's a badass place to go do some climbing.
So I may have mentioned this. I am deathly afraid of heights. So
Really?
yeah, dude, I can't climb a ladder.
You're a skydive instructor.
Yeah.
You're a rock climber.
So if people say that to me about skydiving, like, oh yeah, I'm afraid of heights, I can't get up there. At 2.5 miles up, at 13,500 to 14,000 feet, it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you look over that outside of the plane, it's not a height thing because you just can't, you don't, you know, I mean, your mind can't wrap that up.
Yeah, it doesn't register the same way. Like I've been bungee jumping one time for a reason.
Same
it scared
here.
the shit out of me, man. Like the ground is right there, man.
Yeah.
I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah,
like,
I went once and will never go again. And that was God, that was 30 years ago, and I'm like no interest in ever doing that again. So yeah, you know, so when I climb, I only look down to see where my next foothold is. I don't look at my belayer. I changed the ceiling fan out in my living room about 4 months ago. Man, I thought I was sweating bullets climbing up this fucking ladder, just changing this thing out. It's ridiculous. But, yeah, I don't know. I can't do it. So yeah, sitting on a ledge eating lunch at a couple hundred feet would have been nauseating to me.
Oh, really? That's so weird, man. Because I thought
no, I don't like heights.
You get to the top of a route, and so when you're climbing, you're saying you don't even look at the belayer. You don't look.
Nope. I'll look out, but I won't look down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
The closest thing I came to looking down was that first route that we climbed, that sheer face that we climbed in Cuba. When we heard the pigs, those wild hogs out there.
Yeah.
I did look down to see them, because I wanted to see how close they were to you guys.
Yeah. Well, it was starting to freak me out a little bit. I was like, dude, they're coming. Yeah. Like, I don't know what they looked like. Yeah. I could just hear them, and they sounded big.
Yeah, they were big.
did they have horns?
No. These looked more like farm hogs versus.
Tusks.
These weren't like wild boars. They were farm hogs, but they were still running around there. And yeah, I was, you know, you don't know until you see them because they all sound the same, I think. But yeah, I heard them, and I kept looking down to see if one of you assholes were going to drop me. Well, like, who's going to let go of the belay rope to run? So.
Dude, we're down there, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, these fuckers sound big, man. And like, and all I hear is the bushes. I can see trees rustling around, and it's like the beginning of some scary, horror movie. Like everything's moving, but I can't see these.
Hannibal.
Yeah, everything's moving, but I can't see anything.
It'd be funny if it was just Raoul back there going. Stupid Americans.
Fucking with the climbers. he's got like a voice box or something.
It's a hog call.
Yeah. Hog call.
Yeah, that's literally the only time I ever looked down climbing. I just looked to see where my feet are. Or when I set my wrap rope, I just go, and I know where the halfway point is, so I know where the bottom is. So. Dude,
I like one of my favorite things about climbing is the fact that you travel and you get to meet new people. You're in new weird situations. It requires adaptation to just different environments and everything. Yeah. And so the climbing is more. It feels to me like going to the Wichitas doesn't feel that way because it's just 2.5 hours up the road or something. Same thing kind of for Reimer's Ranch or Enchanted Rock. It doesn't feel, but most trips feel kind of like an expedition a little bit. Like especially like going. I guess the more times you go to a place, the more comfortable and you know the routine and stuff. But like going to Potrero Chico the first time, it was like gotta research the whole deal. Where do you stay? Who you gonna? What's the hookup down there for? Whatever you need, equipment and things like that. There was actually a guy selling climbing gear out of the back of a van outside of Potrero Chico. I'm like, and what he's selling, he's not selling new stuff. It's stuff that he's a climber and he goes and captures, like not captures, but he claims old people's old gear that they left on the rock on the wall. So if people had to bail, he there's a carabiner, and there's a quick draw or something, and so he has a random collection of just
like a nut or a try that was in there that someone couldn't get out.
Yeah. Well, Potrero Chico, there's no trad.
Oh,
it's limestone.
I didn't know that.
That's the badass thing about the place is because you're doing multi-pitch, and you can burn through. Like Chris and I did 10 pitches in like a couple hours or something.
That's
I think
awesome.
We took a really long lunch, so it took longer, maybe 3 hours or something. But we burned through 10 pitches really fast, and there was this crack lieback pitch that was glorious, man, because I'm not setting gear, man. So instead of where I would have normally been like putting cams into the crack, and it would have taken a really long time to do this pitch. I'm just cruising up this thing, man, and I'm like, this is awesome. Just cruising, lying back, throwing a draw, go, and it was a good time. That was one I remember that pitch specifically because it was just it was like just one of the best ones I've ever done.
That was like that cave system we went to in Cuba. The third or fourth day. Remember, we drove out there and we've met up with that couple. I think she was German and he was Swiss or something.
I think they lived in Austria, didn't they?
Something like that, yeah. But remember that whole cave system where you climb up and and then it had mini caves inside of it. And it's like you're sitting there looking like this thing is huge, but it was so cool because it was all sport climbing. So I got pretty intimidated. Because it was that whole as it starts to rotate back underneath. Dude. And you're just, all your weight's on your hands. You're like, dude, this is at the top. This is the crux. This is it.
Yeah. Well, she did this, the wife, I forget her name, but they were both in incredible climbing shape. Yeah. And she was a beast, man. Yeah. I mean, she
was better than he was, way better.
Yeah, she was, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was, I've never seen, it was you see elite climbers on TV or you see whatever, right?
It's not the same. It's not the same. In real life, you're like, God, that's amazing.
You're watching this person travel up this route, and this cave she did, it was like a 12 equivalent of like a 12C or D. They were using, what are they using? 8 plus or something, whatever the numbers, the European.
I don't know. We had both on there, so I think it said both in the climbing books that we had. So
yeah, it was like a 12 something, and I was in pretty good shape at the time too, but I wasn't climbing 12s, and so she sends this thing like it was just like her warm up, man. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Sick, it was awesome to watch, and then her husband does it too, and well, they needed to clean the route, right? So it's like, hey, Paul, do you want to like top rope it, basically? Like, and I was like, okay. And so I'm getting up to the part where it gets really overhung, man. I mean, it had some serious steep angle, and I hadn't done at that point. I hadn't done a lot of overhang, so it wasn't in my wheelhouse. I was like vertical trad guy, and so. I'm getting up on this overhang thing, and it's scaring the shit out of me, man. Because it's on top rope, and so I'm not gonna fall,
but you're gonna swing.
But I'm gonna swing out, and so eventually get pumped out. I mean, I'm on a 12 plus or something, and it's just I'm pumped out of my mind and stuff, and so I'm like. They're like, come on, and I really wanted to do it because I was making some good progress on it, but I couldn't go anymore, and I didn't want to let go because I knew the big swing was going to happen. Yeah. So finally, my arms just burn out, and I just come off, and I let out this like sound that's like, ah! And they thought I was mad that I came off the rock. I was terrified of the swing. I was like. I'm swinging out like 40 feet away from the wall, man. I mean, that's how overhung it was. So I was like, dude,
I got pictures. I got pictures of you doing it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a straight up fall on lead won't bother me, but that swing out away from the wall, I felt like completely out of control.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, we had been climbing for hours before that too. So to give you some credit, it's not like you just kind of got up there and bailed because you got pumped on your first route. We'd been climbing for several hours before we even got to that point because we were on the other side.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Into that other part before we even got over to the cave, those other caves. So
yeah, you're right. There was that other part in the sun that wasn't so cavey. It was kind of just a wall.
It's kind of like an indent. Yeah, but it was sharp too. I remember my hands were bleeding everywhere.
Oh yeah. Well, that's it, man. That was one of the newer areas that they had developed. Yeah. And so even though like the other stuff we had done was sharp, this was like ultra sharp. It was like super sharp.
It was like climbing razor blades. It felt like it was like you had to keep checking your hands to see how much blood was coming out.
Yeah, I definitely had some torn up hands for sure, but those were the days when it was like, I don't even care, like no big deal. I guess I still don't care, but it seemed like not as big of a deal back then. Now I'm like I feel like I'm more of a convenience climber. Like I've done whatever test pieces I felt like I wanted to do, and now it's like dad life and, job and whatever else. And I'm making excuses for it, right? But it's just like other things have kind of taken attention and focus. And, But yeah, man, I want to do and also the hard thing is just like finding people that want to do a multi pitch.
Yeah.
It's like who wants to go climb 1,000 feet in the air? It's like yeah. Yeah, well, let's do it, man. I mean, I want to get on something. I was talking to I did a camping thing last weekend with some dudes, and we were talking about doing like maybe like a minor alpine kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I want to like I'm down for that, but that's mainly you're just like hiking up the mountain, and that's a different kind of climbing.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to climb. I don't want to hike. Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
When I tell people I climb, like somebody, oh, what are your hobbies? I do some climbing and stuff. They're like, oh, so like you climb up these mountains? I'm like, no, not like that. It's like I don't look like I need a Sherpa or something. I need climbing gear.
Yeah. So. Well, and that's the one thing I have never done an alpine, so I don't understand the that world of climbing.
No, I don't either. Yeah.
Yeah. Where like you're gonna have a Sherpa and people hauling your stuff, and in my mind I'm like, with the military background and all the mountains and hiking and doing that, and then all the stuff we've done where it could be like a 2-hour approach to get to the thing. Like you got to haul your own shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You got to be able to handle yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't carry your own gear, like nobody wants to carry your shit for you.
Exactly,
like I got my own stuff to carry.
I'm
so
not carrying your crap.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like when we do a trip, like I don't want to take the new person that doesn't know what they're doing.
And they need to know what to expect. But you know what? That's where you take somebody who's relatively new, just like we did, man. Go up to the Wichitas, get them used to the hike in. Well, once you've gotten them used to real rock, then take them out to the Narrows where you got to hike. Right. You literally got to hike 3 miles to get to an actual climbing area or something like that. You got to prep it. So.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a lead up to it, right? But I feel like I've done enough times with the new person, like training the new guy,
that you don't want to do it again.
And then, well, yeah, pretty much. It's kind of how it feels. Like I don't want to just be training the new guys all the time, because then that limits me from actually going for test pieces, for going for like the big stuff. And it's like I want to get back into where we're training for a big thing. Yeah. And I want to do it with people that already know what they're doing. And there's definitely like a needed thing in the community where you train the new guy, and I've done that countless times. And then the new guy doesn't stick, then they don't do climbing anymore. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool, man. I mean, I just spent all months training you and stuff, and I got you up to speed, and we've done, I can think of a friend, and I understand life happens. People just change hobbies, or they lose interest and they get into other stuff. So it's not a bad thing that they leave climbing. But for me, it's like, it's a new guy that got in the sport, and that's exciting for the group, right? And then now that you get them trained, and now they're up on the wall and you're doing stuff with them. And so, great. Okay, I got an extra person in the crew now. And so, seeing them leave, and then you're like, oh man, I got to start all over again. I got to get like another new guy.
Yeah. What's that? FNG. You need another fucking new guy.
Yeah, the fucking new guy. But the FNGs bring life, man. They bring. It's like having kids. It's like the kids, keep you young and stuff. And so and it also, I think it keeps your skills sharp too. Because if you have to instruct somebody on here's how you set a cam, here's how you place a quick draw. It's like, I've done that enough times now that I'm like, that shit's just dialed in. It's just like muscle memory. I don't even think about when I see a crack. I'm like, that's a number one cam. I just know it.
Well, I think the other thing too, though, is that when you're teaching, it keeps you from being complacent, because it does keep you up on your skills too. Just like anything else, stuff that you'll take for granted.
Is that a rock joke?
Yes.
Take it for granted.
But, I mean, I can guarantee that I wasn't as adamant on checking gear. Especially, I mean, I would check my own. I mean, I was, did that, but not to the same level that I do now, especially, with skydiving, scuba diving. I'm, like I said, I'm very adamant on safety. I'm constantly checking stuff, replacing things that I need to. That I see experienced skydivers not do because they're not teaching somebody. So they just jump on and start doing things, and then they start having malfunctions and stuff like that fortunately they've all been correctable. But, it's same with scuba diving. You go down and all of a sudden you blow an O-ring or something, it's like if you don't know how to replace it, well, your scuba dive's done for the day, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, checking your gear, knowing that stuff, replacing things before you need to replace it is paramount. And same with climbing. I mean, dude, I went so long without climbing outside and just bouldering, I forgot how to tie a figure eight. I was like, oh God, I've been doing this. I've been literally tying figure eights since 1993.
Yeah.
And I forgot how to do it. And I had to sit back for a second. I'm like, how does this go on again? Just something as simple as that. And just your basic things. And, when you're bouldering, nobody's wearing a harness. And so, forgetting you're out checking all your points and stuff. And so when I finally started getting back on the walls again, it's like, I'm sitting there looking and rechecking. So now I've become like anal about it. So,
yeah.
But, if you're going to get hurt doing something with me, it's not going to be because of gear failure. We're going to know that. It's going to be because you did something else entirely you shouldn't have done. So,
well, that's the way it should be, right? It's like we need to have complete trust in this gear.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be an injury because of a gear failure. Like that to me is like just a level of
that's
incompetence.
Yeah, that's uncalled for.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's no excuse for that. Like, you didn't check your gear before you went out, and now there's two dudes on the wall, right? And so if some gear fails, like, we're both at risk.
Screwed.
So I don't mind borrowing gear from people, but there's the whole like if I'm doing, like, if I go to Potrero, like, you need a lot of draws there. I mean, because you're just slapping them in like every 8 feet or something, and you do a multi-pitch, and it's like. And then you need a couple draws for the anchor, and you need some extras as a backup or whatever, and maybe your partner has some for their tight end. So it's like you need a lot of draws. So in that situation, I'll borrow draws.
Yeah.
But I typically don't like to borrow like carabiners and other people's trad gear and stuff, because I don't know what microfractures exist. Did you drop that from the top of a route?
Yeah.
And it looks solid, but that thing's brittle and in
how
the core.
old is this rope? I mean, nylon wears, man, and I've got gear that looks pristine, but it's 10, 12 years old. You got to trash it. I mean, nylon ages and wears and starts becoming brittle. So if you got a rope that's X number of years long, unless it's been packaged away, should you even use it? And if you've used it once, and it's been out in the sun kind of thing, you got to start questioning that. So I think 7 to 10 years is literally the maximum on most gear, that you can maintain. But, I mean, you just gotta know. So yeah, I'm not big on borrowing gear. Cause no matter what I'm doing, I hate borrowing gear. So.
Yeah, I think it depends on what the gear's made out of, right? So, like the rope, that's kind of not consumable. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it's an item that's more easily decomposed and falls apart. But like cams and nuts, man, as long as you haven't dropped those, I think those
should be good.
Those should last you a lifetime.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, you got to look at the wear on a cam. With the presser and what's the wiring looking like and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Versus like a tri-cam or a nut. Even the wiring on those, but like if you have slings on those, you got to replace those slings every once in a while. And the hard part is the harness. Just knowing, it's like, all right, how old is this harness? It still looks good. It feels good. I've had 3 harnesses that I've cut up just because I've had them for 30 years, and I was like, I don't want anybody thinking they should climb these. So,
right.
Which sucks because you're like, it still looks pristine, but I know I've been sweating in them, so all that salt and stuff is wearing it down, even though it hadn't been in the sun much.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
yeah, definitely. The harness is something I hadn't thought about too, but I think if you have any kind of doubt about the thing,
don't do it.
Yeah, just it's not worth the cost, or it is worth the cost to replace it. Yeah, because I don't have to. I don't want to climb and be like, I know this harness is getting older, and
if I take a fall on it, is a leg strap gonna break off?
Yeah, Yeah, well, I had a Mammut harness. So it was my first harness for years, and I think you're right. It was maybe around the 7-year mark or something. There's the little tab that starts to fray, and that's like their indicator. They have a little indicator there, and it's like turns because it's like a gray harness, and then the stitching underneath is red. So when it starts kind of wearing out, then you start seeing the red stitching. And apparently, if there's a certain length of red showing, then that's where you know it's like a bad harness or something. But that red was showing for a while, but I was.
But if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so fortunately, somebody eventually told you, or
no, I knew that was I was being a dumbass.
Not being a cheap ass.
I was being a cheap ass. I was like, dude, I don't want to buy another harness, and so I'm like, this one's good, but it got to the point to where that's what I was thinking about when I'm on the wall, and I'm like, okay, like I can't even focus anymore because I'm thinking about. Oh, I don't want to
take a fall.
I actually did this. I remember this is when I made the final decision on replacing the harness. There was a crux move, and it was time to nut up or shut up and go for this move. And I knew if I didn't make the move, I'm coming off the wall, and I knew it was going to be a pretty good whipper. Yeah. And I didn't make the move. And I said take because I was concerned that if I did take the whipper, would the harness hold me? Yeah. And that was it. I was done.
That's too much.
Yeah.
That's too
I was
much
like,
mental.
you fucked up my route, harness. Like, I'm not even able to climb now because I'm worried about it. Like, that's when, it's past the point of comfort and you got to replace it.
Yeah. My first 2 harnesses were black diamonds. Weren't super expensive. Maybe $30-$40 back when I first got them. That was back when I was only climbing Mad Rock Phoenixes, know, and those are just the most awesome shoe, and you can find them for $30, you know.
Anything, sorry, Mad Rock.
Yes.
Anything made by Mad Rock, I'm not a fan.
Dude, I got a lot of Mad Rock quick draws and stuff. I mean, I like their gear, but their gear is good for a certain level, at least what I was doing at the time. Definitely, I like the more high top trad shoes for when we're outside in crags and stuff, just to cover my ankles up. Just keep cutting them up. But I eventually went, and after probably 3 or 4 harnesses, I eventually went and got that. What was it? The Misty Mountain Cadillac. And dude, I love that thing. I've had that thing for almost 10 years now, and I'm kind of like, I'm gonna hate to do something with this because it was easily 3 or 4 times the cost of those other ones.
Who makes Misty Mountain as a company?
Mountain, yeah,
I've never heard of the company.
Yeah. You know what? I did not take it when I went to Cuba because I knew I was going to donate all my stuff. Yeah. So I took a different harness. I took one of the black diamonds that I had because I donated my shoes, my 70-meter rope, my harness, and then we took all of those titanium bolts. So I just wanted to kind of leave because I know they couldn't buy stuff, so I knew I was going to leave that stuff. But no, I've climbed with it for quite a few years now, so I'm almost at 10 years with it. It's just an awesome harness. It's super comfortable. You can actually, it's claims, I don't know, I've never done it, but they claim you can take a fall off one of the gear loops and stuff like that. That's how well
I don't care what they say about that. Like,
I'll never try it. Yeah. I'm never tying into that. But, there's no reason to. I've got there's other points of contact, but I love that harness, and I'd hate to get another one. Plus, it was like easily $200 or something like that. But it's an amazing harness. So well, in the grand scheme of it, like $200 for a harness is not a big deal. I mean, you've used that for 10 years, so you've more than got your money's worth out of it. Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
So and I've gone through more shoes than I can throw a stick at. So but
Well, I've got a pretty good collection of shoes. I think I've got like 10 pairs of shoes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm always actively climbing with 1 or 2, but I keep the other ones. Because if there's somebody that just needs hey, we're going on a trip and someone needs shoes or something, then I have extra shoes. But usually they're pretty worn out anyway. I never climb them till they have a hole in them. I've never done that. Because at that point, you can tell the difference. That you just don't have that edge anymore. Anyway,
it's too slick. Yeah, it definitely gets slick. I've I've got 3 active pairs I have that I climb in right now that I switch through every time I climb. And then I have 2 more pair that are brand new sitting in boxes. I just don't know where. There used to be several places locally that you could take them to have them resold and have the rubber redone, and I don't know. I don't think they're open anymore. So, with a shoe like a Phoenix or something like that, you spent 20, 30, $40 on it. Once you rubbed a hole through it, you just kind of went,
Yeah.
But yeah, now you got like a pair of TC Pros or something like that, or like right now my favorite pair is the Baturos, the high top Baturo.
The Bitora?
Yeah.
Is that the? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the kind of I can't remember what the brand was or what the.
Yeah, I forget that name too, because that's kind of that's a newer shoe.
Yeah, well, Baturo's been around for at least about 7 or 8 years. I guess newer compared to like La Sportiva.
Right, that's what I mean. Yeah.
But they're the first ones that use like the hemp inside to help with.
Oh, cool.
Like odor control, stuff like that. But yeah, right now I'm loving on those. I've had those for several years, and but
yeah, I'm rocking the Scarpa Vapor V right now.
Yeah,
that's an awesome shoe. Because you've got the aggressive downturn, but it's not to where I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and so I never could get into the It's not the Dragon. What's the Sportiva shoe that's a famous bouldering one that's like really downturn? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't wear them. I don't know.
Okay.
I hate those.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's an excellent edging shoe.
Right.
That Sportiva one. And so, but man, it just kills your feet. And then they had the Miras, which is an amazing edging shoe that's super uncomfortable. And they say they all use the P3 platform. So I'm like, well, if they're all using the same platform, how is it that one sucks ass to wear for more than 2 minutes at a time, and the others I can just walk around
and feel like you don't have to take them off for at least an hour.
Yeah. But so the Scarpa Vapor V for me is the compromise that I'm getting excellent edging, probably like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, versus like other shoes have like a 10. I would say describe it as a 10.
Yeah.
But great for heel hooking, great for like just a very diverse shoe, but it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got probably my absolute favorite shoe. I did buy a pair of TC Pros, and I just didn't like the way they fit, so I ended up with the 510 Grandstones.
Okay.
The originals before Adidas bought 510.
How's the Grandstone compared to the TC Pro?
I liked it a lot better. I mean, it was just a better fit for me. I'm sure that the TC Pros are great. I bought them. I climbed them twice, and I sold them. So it just didn't work for my foot and whatever. And the 510 came out with a new Grandstone a few years ago because they discontinued it, and I'm not digging it at all. But I did end up before they discontinued it. I bought another pair. So one of the brand new pairs I have is this exact same 510 Grandstone. And then I also have a Evol makes a pair of high tops, and I can't remember the designation on that one either, but that one's I like that one too. It's got a split tongue, so when you put it in, you open it that way, and the tongue opens up, and then you fold it back over, so it's real comfortable. But I have worn down a lot of the edging on there, so that's one of the shoes I need to definitely get resold and see if I can get an edge put back on it.
Yeah, there was a place in Dallas years ago that did resoling, but now you gotta I
think you just gotta send them back and hope for the best. So.
Well, they have places you can mail it to, so I don't know if they're in Colorado or Utah, but there's a place called the Rubber Room. Yeah. I think it's called the Rubber Room, and they just basically that's all they do is resoling, and nice. You just ship them out there, and I don't remember the price I paid, but it was reasonable because it's like. If you got an awesome shoe that's broken in, and it's kind of molded a little bit to your foot, and you've crushed some awesome rock on it and everything, and the only thing is the edge is gone, dude, just resole that thing. I mean, it's for a good shoe. Like if you want to buy, I am thinking of prices. Like I know the Katana is an awesome shoe, but it's like $180 shoe. Yeah, it's like I can't be buying
Yeah, you can't be throwing $200 at a shoe every time I want to do something. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I can resole that thing for like $30-$50 or something, like it's totally worth
Yeah.
the
I'll have to look into that.
the deal.
I need to get that done then. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch I want to resole. It's not the same. You're not gonna. I feel like it's still
not gonna be factory, but it'll be better than what I have right now.
Yeah.
So.
The other cool thing that you can do is you can take rubber from other companies, so you don't have they don't require it to be like, oh, if I have Sportiva, I'm going to use the, their rubber. What is it?
The M3 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but who makes C4? Who's the?
That would be an explosive, sir.
No.
You don't want that on your
No,
shoes.
I think it's called C4, and they're a rubber C4. Maybe 510's rubber. I don't remember the names, man. I forgot. I used to know all the names of the rubber, but you can mix and match.
Oh, okay.
So if you've got a Sportiva shoe, but you like the rubber from 510, they'll resole it with the other rubber. Or if there's one that's like an awesome shoe that's meant for edging, but you want something that gives you a little more smearing ability, then they can put the tackier
stuff on there,
stickier rubber.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
That's nice.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, yeah, man.
C4.
Dude, I swear there's a rubber called C4. We can
I'll Google it later.
Google it. Yeah, that's
I feel like I'm gonna Google it and get on a list all of a sudden.
For looking up rubber.
C4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look who's looking up hundreds of pounds of nitrogen and ammonia and stuff.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. It's if you Google C4 rubber, I doubt that's gonna be put you on some list or something. I don't think the government has that kind of time, man.
No, for me they do.
Do they? Well, maybe you're already on a list, or they're watching you for some reason, some unknown reason.
Pretty sketch as it is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're
that guy.
You're being tracked by the USPA, right?
That's right. Yeah, the USPA is looking at me right now.
Yeah. So
who did he vote for his regional director? God, look at that guy. What an asshole. So
regional USPA director.
Yeah. We have regional directors that we vote for spots. So.
Oh, so what is I thought this was like well, that makes sense, I guess, because they have FAA people all over the country and stuff too. So what is a regional director doing? Are they coming out to?
They're pretty much like
you guys?
Yeah, they're like kind of like our local type representatives. So think governor, right? I mean, but not to that kind of extent of power or whatever. But they're the closest point of contact between the average local skydiver and the government. From where we go with it. So. We have lots of we have national directors. We have multiple national directors who. So the hierarchy of it is there's the president of the USPA, and that under the president is multiple national directors, and under each national director is multiple regional directors. They're like, again, it's just kind of like your closest access point to, hey, here's what we're seeing, here's what we're doing, or if something happens. That's going to be the first point of contact that if there's an issue, a safety issue, generally it's a safety issue, who's following what's considered the USPA guidelines and who's not. Now, there are drop zones that are non-USPA sanctioned. You or I could open a drop zone. We do not have to.
Oh, really?
We do not have to be under the sanctions of the USPA. But you're still going to be under the FAA. And if you don't know the bylaws and rules of what the FAA allows, then you can have other issues. So, it's kind of like, what's that old saying? A person who goes to court who's their own lawyer has a fool for a client.
Yeah.
So
the person who represents themselves has a fool for a client or something.
So, we could all go to court. We could all do whatever. But if you don't know the actual laws, you get eaten up by all of the idiosyncrasies of whatever's happening in the
procedure.
Courtroom. Yeah. So same thing with this. I mean, you can open up a drop zone, but if you don't know, like, what if your drop zone is near a no-fly area? I mean, we got President Bush or ex-President Bush lives in somewhere in Dallas.
Yeah.
You can't fly over his house within 2 miles.
Oh, you're kidding.
No helicopters, no airplanes, no nothing can fly within a certain area, a certain region of his house.
Wait, so we're talking commercial too? Like American Airlines can't fly over his house?
I think so. I don't know. That part I don't know for certain, but I do know private airplanes. Like I took a helicopter tour, like a sunset helicopter tour one time. Like, hey, can we go over there? And it's like, no, we can't go over there. We have to be within X number of miles of that spot because that's where George W. I can't remember who was the second George Bush.
W. Yeah, George Walker Bush.
Yeah, so we can't be within X number of miles of his house. So you have to know things like that. Is there? We have a nuclear power plant not that far from Fort Worth. You can't fly over that. So
we have a nuclear plant here.
Yeah.
I thought we were getting all our power out here from
solar.
Yeah. No, like oil or coal or whatever. I don't know how they do power plants.
There's a nuclear power plant over by Fort Worth. Kind of southwest, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too far from where the Air Force Base is, the Reserve Air Force Base.
Oh, the Joint Reserve Base.
Yeah, it's literally right near that area. So, I mean, so you got to know where you can and can't fly. I think they call it like Region A, Region B, Region C, something like that. Are you going to be in an area of high traffic for commercial airlines? I know like where I jump, we do have quite a bit of traffic coming into the DFW area over that spot, and sometimes we get put in a holding pattern below our exit altitudes because we can't be within X number of feet or miles or whatever you want to say of so we go up, we jump from just under 14,000 feet. If an airline's coming in or taking off and they're coming down towards where we are, we get put down to say 8,000 feet, and we have to circle until they pass over, then we can go up. So you have to know these rules and stuff. If you don't know that, then eventually you end up getting shut down anyway. So it's nice to have the someone who's an expert in that area who can help you out with it. They're not telling you what to do, but they at least give you give you a hand in it. So
it's somebody that's kind of advocating for you.
Yeah,
they're on your side. They want you to have a great drop zone.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're gonna make sure that you can do it without getting shut down.
Yeah.
And here's the best way to do it. And that's cool, man. Because it seems more of a friendly relationship.
Yeah.
Because I could see something like that being considered adversarial. Maybe this guy's coming to fuck with us and we just want to jump, man, just have a good time. Quit but the way you're describing it sounds like a more symbiotic relationship and friendly.
Yeah, and that's how, unfortunately some people see it the other way. They see it as, they're coming to tell us what to do and all this kind of stuff. No, that's not really what it's about. I mean, it's like with anything, like with climbing and stuff like that. As long as things go well, we're all happy. All it takes is one bad incident or one incident, and then it makes us all look bad. So, just knowing that is helpful. So,
yeah, well, you want to be the drop zone that's known for just having a good time.
Yeah, not for deaths and injuries.
Right. Yeah, it could ruin the whole reputation of the business if there's some kind of incident. I mean,
and not just that drop zone, but like for all of them, they're like, oh, hey, you want to go jump? Oh man, I heard that.
Exactly.
Dave, the goat, from Cuba, had an incident at the drop zone in Denver, and they're like, whoa.
And he was eaten.
Yeah, and so
a bunch of people ate him.
So then people won't jump in Houston or something because of it, something silly like that. But it happens. So, I see stuff, I see posts all the time where people are like, hey, we're going to go skydive out here. And somebody writes, oh, such and such, had an accident at the one in California. And it's like, what do you want to do?
It's a completely different state. Yeah. It's completely different drop zone, different people. But the way you described earlier, like the safety stuff, how few deaths there are. Yeah. I mean, we could look up absurd statistics of how many people die per year from, eating peanut butter or, like just silly stuff, right, that no one should die from. And like hundreds of people die from weird stuff like that. But what was the number? You said 30?
No, it was like 11, I think. 11 people.
11 people.
Yeah.
So millions of jumps, 11 people. I mean, that's incredibly safe, man. I mean, that seems safer than getting in a car, doing pretty much anything.
And the weird part is the people that seem to be doing it that are having the biggest accidents are the experienced skydivers. Again, it's that complacency thing.
Yeah.
You know, newer skydivers may have an accident where they break an ankle, but experienced ones are the ones that are doing the other stuff, you know. And you almost never see a tandem death. I mean, it's very rare.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even though you only need about 500 jumps to get a tandem rating, I don't think there's anybody at our drop zone that has less than like 3,000 or 4,000 that's doing tandems.
Wow.
So, I mean, you know, they want to be safe. They want to live too. They don't, you know, they're not risking themselves for their job. I mean, it's not like they're making millions of dollars doing this. These guys are just barely making it cash wise. And so, yeah, you got to do a whole bunch of jumps. And so they want to be safe and keep everything good. Yeah, the nice thing, well, I don't know if it's nice. One of the things that the USPA does is they keep track of all what we call incidents, fatal and non-fatal incidents. So you can we have a periodical called Parachutist, and you can go into Parachutist and check it out at any point, and it shows year to year, you know, the different incidents for, like, say, a broken ankle or broken wrist, all the way up to, unfortunately, a death, and it'll show you the number of times it's happened, and they go through what was found out at that time to have happened. And for a long period of time, it was like on borrowed gear. Somebody had an accident and died. You know, we gotten away from that, but
like experienced guys borrowing
something.
Hey, let me borrow your chute.
Not knowing the idiosyncrasies of some equipment or something like that. But you know, since I've been jumping since 1999, I think you know, I look at it too because that's my thing, and I think the most number of fatal incidents since I've been jumping in 1 year was like 34, and the least number was like 8.
Wow! And
so even at 34, again, horrible number that people are dying that way, still less than probably a OUUT weekend on the road here. So with hundreds of thousands of people coming into town and, you know, for the fair and for the game.
Yeah.
Who knows how many accidents there were on the road. Guarantee you we still had less than that. So, but yeah, they do keep track of that. And so it's a learning thing. You don't put it out there for morbidity. You don't want to be like, oh, dude, this was gnarly. You put it out there so someone learns from it. They're like, look, this guy made a low turn. This guy made a cutaway of a bad main parachute, but did it, you know, didn't do it in time, did it too low, tried to fight with it for too many feet, you know, something like that. So, you know, it's you use it as a learning experience, not to just be, you know, morbidly curious.
Sure.
So,
yeah, I remember, not to change topics from skydiving to climbing, but just like an incident that Chris was in, the accident
with Jeff.
Yeah, and Chris did an amazing write-up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really meant to embarrass Chris or Jeff. It was just to put it out there to the climbing community that, hey man, like this event happened. This is how we think.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't detect any tension, and this is why I had the slack on the rope, and this is why we think it happened. And I think write-ups like that are pretty important. So it's cool to hear that you guys are doing the same thing in like the skydiving community, just passing on
information, educational information. Yeah, I mean, you know, and talking to Jeff after that too, I mean, he even said that, that was a questionable piece that he put in, and then when he took the fall and that whole piece blew out, I mean, you know, it's sandstone. You can't control what nature's doing to it, but if you think it's questionable, don't do it, you know. So I mean, at least to that degree. I mean, you know, if you look at an area and you think you're going to put a piece of protection there and you're like, yeah, it looks loose, then why do it? Go somewhere else with it if you can. So
yeah, I've done it before where if I'm not sure, like, I don't know if this cam is going to walk on me or not, or if this nut's going to hold, I'll double up. I'll put 2 pieces in. And it's just worth the extra peace of mind of knowing, okay, if the one goes, like, chances are both aren't going to pop, you know. It's so a little.
It's like climbing with a double rope. you know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously a much safer thing than climbing with a single rope, because if something happens on one, you're on two different total pieces. But
yeah, I never liked
it's cumbersome.
Yeah,
it's cumbersome. I've only tried it once inside. I didn't like it either. But again, it's an experience thing. You know, I spent years and years on a single rope, and then trying to switch to a double was tough, especially wrapping down off of that.
Yeah, I think for me, it introduces extra complexity that I'm not interested in having.
Yeah.
For the sake of creating a redundancy in a thing that has its own redundancy. Yeah, like the rope can handle a lot of force. It can handle a lot of rubbing. I mean, the climbing rope is a rope of many ropes all wound together.
Yeah.
And so even if you did have a thing where, like, you know, part of the rope got cut or something like that, like the rest of it would still hold you. I mean, you'd have to, the rope is done. I mean, you're retiring that rope after you come down off that wall, but it's still gonna save your life for that moment.
Well, I don't know if the double rope is for that specifically. I mean, I guess yes. I think it's more of you alternate your pro in where you're hooked to it. So if one piece comes out, it's not bam, 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 straight down one piece. It's alternating. So it's But I don't know.
Well, no, yeah, I just meant from the safety standpoint, like about, you know, I'm creating redundancy for, you know, that one rope so it doesn't. Oh, battery's running low. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
You can keep talking about ropes.
Well, we got thick ropes and thin ropes, and we got ropes for our shoes, and we got ropes on other things, and we got fried rope and boiled rope.
Dude, I can't believe
well, I'm glad you're back. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, you went full Bubba Gump on that one. Yeah, dude, I can't believe I left my laptop unplugged. It's like, it's all good. It would have been fine because we're still recording into this machine, but yeah.
Excellent.
Fried rope?
Fried rope. I don't know. I was at the fair. Everything's fried right now.
Dude, what did you see any new fried stuff at the fair?
They fried everything. It was amazing what wasn't fried. Honestly, I don't think I even tried any of it. I had like a bratwurst, and that was a bratwurst. So
fried? It was a fried bratwurst?
No fried. Yeah, no. I try to stay away from too many fried foods, just health-wise now. So
yeah. Well, they've got, I know it started out, they were doing, the Texas State Fair is a pretty big deal, and there's like a lot of competition for having the coolest new thing.
Yeah.
And it started out with like fried Oreos,
I
think, or the fried Twinkies.
I think it was fried Twinkies.
Yeah.
And then they did fried butter.
Fried butter.
Yeah. I remember seeing that on a menu somewhere.
Fried butter.
They had fried pizza. I mean, they literally just battered and fried everything. There was a fried Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Where they literally took something of, like, there was, like, turkey, stuffing.
Cranberries.
Dry, yes, and they fried it into a ball.
That sounds good. I can get down on some fried Thanksgiving dinner. That sounds good.
Yeah, I was like, nah, I'm good.
I remember they had fried beer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get it because I'm like, what the hell? It's liquid. How do you...
I'm guessing it's like beer batter. It's kind of like, I'm guessing it's like fried butter. It's like, I think they make a batter with whatever's in it and then just fry that, like deep fry it.
Oh, so it's not like in the middle. Oh, because I think of like a fried hot dog. It's like a corn dog, but like there's a thing in the middle.
That's a solid piece though, yeah.
Yeah. And then the fry stuff is on the outside. So you're saying this is just all fry batter and it's got the beer inside of the batter?
Yeah. I would think so. I would think. I don't know for certain, but I mean, it's kind of like, you know, fried ice cream and stuff like that. You can't fry it too much. Everything melts. It's gone. So, like, what would you do with it?
Yeah, yeah. The lines for those things, the novelty fried stuff, the lines are so damn long.
Ridiculous,
I'm not gonna wait an hour to get a fried anything. Like,
my cholesterol level's high.
Right? Yeah. Like I don't need the wait in line to damage my body.
Yeah,
Like you got to make it easy for me, man. Like
Right.
make it convenient.
I've already done enough to my body. I don't need to do that.
That's exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But what's the latest in the fair? The state, because I haven't been in a few years. So
man.
anything cool going on?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in the Metroplex for 27 years. This is my third time going to the fair
Yeah.
ever. I'm not big on crowds, so I was a little overwhelmed, I guess, if you want to say that too. I was just like, I was looking more for open space, and it's, there's lots of people. Unfortunately, we went, on the day before the OUT game, so the Red River rivalry or whatever, and so I think historically, you can look it up. There's something like somewhere near 100,000 people come on that day. So there was obviously a ton of people, lots of lines. But there was some cool stuff. You got to go and see the car shows and some of the art stuff. And I always enjoy the, the animals. There's, the horses and the agricultural stuff is always just neat to see because it's not something we do every day.
Right.
There are lots of people in Texas that do, obviously, but I love seeing animals. I'm a big animal person, so it was neat. They actually had a rodeo there. The first rodeo at the State Fair of Texas, I think, was in something like 1940 something.
Oh wow!
And this was the second time they did it, and it was it was really cool. A lot of professional riders from some of the other professional things like the PBR and some of the other riding venues, I guess, and some of them did really good, really awesome. And then they had some kids, like there's a kid that won the Texas high school rodeo, bull rider. It was out there, and he did really good. So, yeah, it was kind of fun to watch. I don't know why I like bull riding. I've never ridden one. I've always wanted to. But,
maybe you can do like a work exchange program.
That's
like
right,
bull
yeah.
riders go do skydiving.
That's
and skydivers go do bull riding.
That's
It's
right.
Like I can't imagine. Can't imagine getting on a bull, man. Like it just seems like
those things are huge, man. They're like 2,000 pounds. They're
Yeah.
just massive. Just they look like a bunch of roided up gym rats. Just like that just looks ridiculous. But
yeah.
it just looks like it'd be fun to do once. Just one time.
Yeah, one time for sure. I'd probably get down on it, but I think for me, like activities I like to do involve some level of survival skill.
Yeah, control.
Well, yeah. I guess you're in limited control if you're on top of a giant beast, but it's like riding a bull isn't necessary in a survival situation. Like
Right.
I'm not gonna have to
Ride a bull to live.
yeah, like scuba diving. Leading up to scuba diving, like all the swimming I did in the military, did a ton of water work, and then the scuba was kind of like the next evolution of it, and just also appreciation for the planet. So I love the beauty of seeing all the wildlife under there.
Yeah.
Like wrecks are amazing because you're down there
With all the animals. Yeah.
There's 1,000 fish in this boat with you, and they're all hanging out, just like staying away from sharks and predators and stuff, and they're all hiding out in the wreck, and then you just come in drifting by.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, Mr. Fish, like they're all hanging out with you in there, and it's like it's pretty amazing to see. It's a thing that you're not going to get a chance to see unless you learn how to scuba dive.
Right.
Rock climbing, just like getting away from the zombies. Zombies don't climb, so you gotta.
That's right. They walk real slow. So.
Yeah. Depends on which universe you're talking about, because in Zombieland they run, so you gotta. But they don't climb. That's the thing. So
they're like wild boars. They can't look up. So.
Yeah. In any of the zombie universes, there's no climbing zombies. So I think like it's a good skill to have.
We got that covered then.
Yeah. Well, I always just think of like, because before I was a climber, I always hiked. I always know how to like scramble on rocks and stuff. And I think just being agile in multiple terrains is an important skill to have, because you never know what situation you're going to be in. And so I like my activities like shooting is a fun hobby for me, because because I like, we got to go shooting sometime. But again, it's just like a thing that I think
It's a good skill to have.
I think people should know how to do those things. Know how to defend yourself. Know how to handle yourself in certain situations. Know how to be agile. It's just I think it's a necessary thing. And the unfortunate thing is that it requires you to constantly keep those skills fresh, right?
Yeah, right. It's like anything else we do. There's a diminishing skill level,
right?
You know, to that muscle memory that, you may know how to load the weapon and point it and pull the trigger, but having that nice trigger control, the breath, the control of what your hands are doing, knowing not to just snap it when you pull the trigger, that kind of thing is paramount to being good at it. And it's no different than climbing and everything else. Just like you said, man, it's like, you know, I remember back when we were all climbing together, we were hitting the gym at least 3 nights a week for like 3 to 4 hours a night. And I still remember if I missed like 2 days of that coming back in, I felt like I dropped a level, you know, I felt like I lost something. And I definitely don't feel like I'm at the same level I was at when we were climbing like that, because I'm barely going to the gym twice a week now to you know, climb around. And I remember last time we were out at the gym, I was struggling to climb some of the, what was that, like I think it was like a 9 or something, like a 5'9", and just trying to lead that. I was like, God, I'm dying here, you know? And I was a pretty regular, you know, 5'10" to 5'11" climber. And not even close to that now. I feel like I'm back. Well, when I played football in high school, you know, that's how I feel with that. But at least I can get the climbing back at some point. So,
yeah, for a minute there, I was really into bouldering, and I just went the other day, earlier this last week, with my daughter to the Denton gym and did some bouldering with her there. And my levels have gone down for sure. I mean, I did a V5. I think I worked a V6, but really, I mean, I was getting worked hard, man.
Yeah.
And I'm really at, like, from a comfort standpoint, I'm really more at like V4 or something like that. V3, you know, I could probably flash or like on-site V3s all day. But once we get into like V4, V5 territory, then maybe I'm having a tough time. But man, I was working like V8s and stuff like that, and like a V8 was like my, you know, challenge piece, and I was warming up on V5s and 6s.
I went yesterday, and I flashed a couple of V4s, and I was pretty much sticking with V5s and 6s, and pretty much that's where I am right now in bouldering, comfort-wise, just because my pinch is just, you know, it depends on where you're at, I guess, but the grip type changes so much in such a small level, you know, going from a 6 to a 7, you're like, that's a lot different.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is you got to put in the work. If you're not doing hangboard training, then you're not going to get to that next level. Like you have to put in the time in the gym, and that's actually like when I was at my best in climbing was when I was climbing the least, and I was actually spending all my gym time upstairs, doing the hangboards, doing all the exercises, doing all the core training and stuff, and then
building up that tendon strength so you don't get tendonitis and rip things through, like, you know, pulleys and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like my hands are pretty trashed. I mean, because most people can do actually with my right hand it's better, but I can't bring this middle finger down to touch the palm. Are you able to do that?
I can do it on this.
Oh, can you? What can you do on your other hand?
I can't. I got trigger finger really bad on both, so it gets stuck.
What is trigger finger?
It's scar tissue to the flexor tendons of the fingers, and it's just happened from years of climbing and my work. You know, working on people all day for the last 27 years, and you can. It's just right up in that tendon sheath. There ends up scar tissue in it, and it's like a clog in a sink. And it catches, and then it's stuck.
Well, I think that's interesting. So, ooh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and you can see
ooh, like popped out.
Yeah. It's unfortunately another surgery that's going to have to happen on my hands, but I'm waiting because I need my hands for a living. So.
Yeah, no kidding. So they're going to give you like a vacation, not a vacation, but like paid time off or whatever.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's part of the benefits package.
Yeah. Well, you work in healthcare, so I'm thinking like, what's the healthcare for a healthcare worker? What is?
I mean, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, being a healthcare worker means you think you know a lot more about it. So
you're a bad patient.
I'm a horrible patient. Yeah. I may do what I tell you, not what I do kind of person.
Yeah.
I mean, my last 3 rotator cuff repairs, I was back at work within a week, or actually within a few days, and working on patients and stuff, and just having to figure out how I did it. Just manipulating things. My last 2 hand surgeries, I had a cast on it, so I did most of my work with one hand. The nice thing about being a physical therapist is there is a lot of stuff you can do one-handed. You just have to adjust your body to do it. But, that this is going to be my dominant hand, and now that everything is EMR, that I have to, we've been typing our notes for years now. I wouldn't be able to do a single note. I'd have to hunt and peck with my left hand to do it this entire time, but I don't know. I'll figure it out.
How do you see, because you've been doing physical therapy for a long time, a full career basically.
Yeah, 27 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you see the changes that have happened with the coming of the EMR, all of the technology? How do you see that changing the job for you?
As far as the job, it doesn't. It doesn't change the job. It doesn't change the treating of patients in any way. That's more of the healthcare system in general, with different reimbursement systems. Who's the third-party payer and that kind of thing. Are they approving what you want to do with somebody? As far as EMR is great. I went into it kicking and screaming because I'm very anti-technology. I'm horrible with computers. I am a very slow typer. But the more the stuff evolves, the easier that stuff gets. So there's a lot of, the voice technology thing has become so much better than when Dragonfly first came out. You can voice to text pretty much. Stuff like that. It makes it easier to get information to whoever you need to get it to. If I need to get something to a doctor, to another colleague, to the patient themselves, to the insurance company, it literally takes seconds just to print something out, or just to email it to them, or have whatever we're going to do. So, no, EMR is awesome. It's you don't have boxes and boxes of paper material sitting there that you have to, because you got to hold on to that stuff for 7 to 10 years. So it doesn't take up space. You're not hiring a storage area to keep it for the next 10 years in case something happens and it needs to go to somebody, because literally someone can ask for it up to that time period. I think it's 7 years, but so no, that part's great. Everything else, it's healthcare, and it's the same stuff that we've always complained about. Whether you're in the healthcare system or you are using healthcare, it's like, the struggle is always going to be there. Everything from going into Obamacare and then coming out of it, Medicare, Medicaid, now all these private insurances have multiple sections to it, and you can see some people that come in and like, they've got a $200 deductible, which you almost never see anymore. Most people are coming in with $5,000 deductibles, which almost limits them from doing stuff. So, because they're still paying out of pocket a ton of money, which is ridiculous. But, insurance companies have the rule on that, and they got enough hands and pockets throughout our government that you literally cannot sue your insurance company for denial of something. You could have cancer and it could be stage 4, and they could say, oh, we need to do this, or stage 3, whatever, and insurance company could literally say no. And so now if you want to have it done, you're stuck with all these massive medical bills. So that's the struggle for us. But the nice thing about it is I don't, because I don't own my business, I work for somebody. I get to see patients and treat them regardless. If somebody comes in and regardless what their insurance is or whatever else is going on, if an insurance company doesn't cover something and I think it's still something viable for them to do or have, I still do it, and if there's a way that, if it's something that's going to be exorbitant, maybe we can take the cost of that, because another insurance company is paying for something. I don't know, man, but I treat everybody the same. I don't look at their insurance when they come in, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's really honorable of you. So you'll treat them with whatever the insurance company does cover, and then just throw in a freebie essentially, just
I guess that's how you want to look at
added bonus or something if you know that they really need it.
Yeah, like I do a lot of hands-on. I am a part of my PT designation, I guess, is I also have a mastery mastery certification in manual therapy on top of being PT. So I do a lot of hands-on work. Most of my work is in outpatient orthopedics and sports medicine. There are some insurance companies that don't cover manual therapy by a physical therapist. I'm like, yeah, you'll cover me putting heat and ice on somebody, which is ridiculous, but you won't cover me putting hands on somebody to stretch them or do some type of joint manipulation or muscle energy test or technique or something like that. If I still think they need it, I still do it.
Yeah.
It's because it's part of the treatment, I mean, to me, one thing doesn't make the treatment. It's kind of like a meal, right? You go to Thanksgiving, the turkey is not the meal. It's everything goes together with it.
Sure.
So I just do what I do. I document the way I document, and everything's in there. And so that way nobody can say I did anything wrong or illegal. And
yeah, well, I don't think there's any violation there, because it's the insurance company isn't being asked to pay for it, right? I think that would be the thing, is if it was the opposite, where you were billing the insurance company for something that the patient didn't receive.
Yeah, that's fraud.
That would be definitely fraud. But you're doing something
that we may not get paid for. Yeah.
Well,
I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
But we're just not getting reimbursed for it. So
yeah, I mean, nobody's a victim there.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting defrauded or anything. Have you seen in 27 years, have you seen the modalities change? Like something that used to be, hey, this is the way you treat this injury, and then you find out it's totally wrong. Now you have to do it differently.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff, man. There's I remember when I first started getting into the field, one of the big pushes was what was it? Those red lights,
infrared.
Infrared, yeah, okay. That was a big thing, and it's like nobody does that, man. That was not only was that a thing in rehab that somebody thought was a great idea, it was also nobody uses that at fast food restaurants anymore to keep their stuff hot, like they used to.
Okay.
So yeah, nobody uses that. There's been a big shift away from a lot of modalities. I used to use ultrasound as a treatment modality, not a diagnostic modality. You can use ultrasound to look for things and to actually look. And when the doctor I work with does injections, he actually uses that to make sure everything's going where it's supposed to go. I don't use those anymore. I just don't feel that it's as effective as the other use of my time. I do other things that are, I still use a lot of electrical modalities like, interferential current for pain, which definitely seems to help. Neuromuscular reeducation, like NMES to help with muscle reeducation for, say, somebody had surgery. It doesn't make you stronger, but it's like using Cliff Notes after you've read a book. If you've never read the book, you just get the Cliff Notes. It's no good. I do a lot of trigger point release, whether it's with my hands or with needles. I do that kind of stuff, but for the most part, I've gotten away from other things and I want to teach people what they need to become independent from me and not dependent on me. So a lot of my treatments are education based, and I still do, like I said, I still do a ton of hands-on stuff, but I try to do that so I can keep the numbers that, like, say, instead of having somebody come for 20 visits, I want to try to have them come for like 7 or 8. And if they get what they need by 7 or 8, then I don't need to see them anymore. All the other stuff may just be minutia, and I don't want that. That's a waste of time for the patient. It's a waste of, finances for them and their insurance and all that other stuff. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, definitely pushing the home exercise programs and here's what you can do to make yourself better is always been a big priority of mine.
Yeah, my mom went through a lot of physical therapy after the cancer, and she was basically bedridden in the hospital for like a month and a half, 2 months, and then so they got to get her back to just walking again, or sitting up, just basic stuff. And I remember her back was just like wrecked after a physical PT session because, in a good way, I mean, just muscle fatigue because they're having her do just like the basic things, and just working her through that process of just learning to function again. And so I went with her for a few of those visits to watch what was going on. It's pretty interesting that it doesn't seem like rocket science. It seems like, okay, if your shoulder's hurting you, you do a little bit of a stretch this way or that way, and then stay fit, exercise, get sleep, drink water.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it's not, I like to kind of think of what I do as a little bit more just kind of detective work, right? You come in, you've got shoulder pain or neck pain. It's like, all right, well, what can't you do? What should you be able to do? Like, if you can't turn your head to the right and you should be able to, then why not? Then we start, that's where the detective work comes in. Is it because of some soft tissue issue? Is it because of bony entrapment like arthritis? Is it something that I can physically do something with? I mean, if it's a disc, if it's muscle, if it's something like that, nerve impingement, yeah, there's a ton I can do about that. If you come in, you got a ton of arthritis, well, not a lot I can do about that. So, I mean, but even with that, working on posture, working on something simple like that, I mean, the things that we have lost becoming a much more technical society, being on cell phones, laptops, even just reading for extensive period of time where you're slouched over and you're having issues like that, just a simple fix of postural reeducation can, change your pain level significantly. So, you look at the little things, and it may be some little things that people just don't notice. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that's the way I feel about what my work. It's like I get to be the Sherlock Holmes of bad posture. And like, I know who the culprit is. So.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Well, how do you differentiate, because doctors are supposed to be doing the diagnosing, but it sounds like a lot of what you're doing is figuring out what's wrong.
So that's actually called differential diagnosing.
Okay.
You're looking at, it's not trying to figure out what something is, you're trying to figure out what it's not. You don't try to prove what you think is right. You try to figure out, if you think that it might be something, you try to figure out why it won't be that. Because if you already think you know what it is, you're going to treat the wrong thing almost 100% of the time. So it's knowing the different tissue types, and it's knowing how an injury happened, or if it was an injury at all, just some type of insult from, like I said, overuse, bad posture. People are like, oh, I just sit at a computer all day, I didn't do anything to injure myself. It's like, well, you did, you just didn't know it, right?
Injured yourself slowly over years of the same repetition thing. Yeah,
exactly.
That's bad too.
So knowing that, like I said, the different types of tissues and how they heal and what's going on with them, knowing that tendons and ligaments take a long time to heal because they have a little bit of blood in there. And, you may have done something and said, oh man, I do this and I treat it, and then it comes right back. It's like, no, it actually never went away. If it takes 3 months to heal, and you feel better after 3 weeks, it's not healed. I always go back to food. I can take a turkey frozen out of the freezer and stick it straight in the oven at 500 degrees, and within like an hour, it's going to look great, but you can't eat it, And it's the same thing with like certain tissues, right? If I put stitches in my skin, I know it's going to take 7 to 12 days for that to heal, where I can take the stitches out. If I take them out too early, it just opens back up, right? So it's having that in the back of your mind, and then kind of knowing, besides anatomy, biomechanics, where your tensions are coming from, an origin insertion of a muscle or a tissue, things like that. help with doing that differential diagnosing. So when a doctor sends me somebody, if they say something like shoulder pain, well, that's not a diagnosis, that's a symptom. So I do have to go through and try to figure out what it's all about. Where if they send me somebody that says rotator cuff tear, well, I don't generally have to do much more for that. So
Yeah.
I already know what it is. I still do my test just to make sure that I'm seeing the same thing they're seeing, and then we go through the treatment process depending on what's the most appropriate thing. So.
Do you? So you're talking about doing things in education. Are you doing? Is part of that education discussing prevention of injuries, or is it focused around the existing injury?
So seeing how everybody that comes to see me is already injured, it is not generally about prevention.
Yeah.
Once they start the treatment, usually kind of getting into that, yes, we want to say, okay, here's how you keep from doing this again. I used to go to schools a long time ago, and I worked at another place, and I would do some stuff with different teams, like some of the high schools and whatnot, and do injury prevention for volleyball teams, football teams, stuff like that, which generally was core strengthening, stretching, stuff like that, to, you know, especially activity dependent type things. If you're a volleyball player, you know, generally what you're looking at is knee and ankle injuries and shoulder injuries, right? It's going to be the hand that they're going up to spike with. It's not somebody that's setting a ball. Someone that sets, they're not going to get injured. But if you're going up to spike a ball, someone that's serving and doing a high level serve versus like an underhand serve, you know, these young ladies and some, you know, sand volleyball 2 guys, whatever. There's a lot of knee things happening with jumping and landing, so a lot of patella tendonitis, stuff like that. I'd get the occasional, always forget what they're called. I always call them high kickers. The dance teams at the high school level and stuff. They'd end up with a lot of hip problems.
Oh, cheerleaders?
No, not the cheerleaders. The other ones.
The cheer followers?
Yes, yeah. No, the ones that generally jump into the splits and they do the fan kicks.
And aerials.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
that those people?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
But they're on the cheerleading team and they're the ones that get thrown in the air?
No, not them. Not them. The dance team.
I don't know that.
But they'll come out. Yeah, they'll come out with a lot of hip labral tears, things like that, ankle injuries. So, you know, kind of going in and working on that. But so I used to do a lot of that. But the place I'm at now, it's a much smaller place. I mainly focus on who's coming into my office as opposed to who's outside of it. So I'm not going to schools and stuff like that, doing things as much. You know, I do a lot of injury stuff at the drop zone. There's always someone that's an employee there that's got a shoulder problem from, you know, doing what we do. There's always a lot of right shoulder issues because that's our deployment side. Usually it's the tandem people. You know, if they do 10 tandems a day and they're, say, my size, you know, about 140 to 160 pounds, and you're taking up a 220-pound rider on a regular basis, it's going to be a lot of wear and tear in your body. So I try to help them out as much as possible because most of them don't have insurance anyway. So I kind of go through with those guys and show them a lot of stretching, and if I need to do some other stuff, I try to help them out as much as I can. But again, it's mostly education because I can't, you know, it's like I don't want to do that all the time. I want to show them what they need to do so I can go play too. So what happens with a diver? I know you deploy, you pull the little ball. What? That's a great way of putting it.
What is it called?
Our pilot chute, yeah.
The pilot. Well, what's the thing? It's a ball, right?
It's a hacky. Yeah, it's a hacky sack.
Yeah,
it's sewn into it.
Oh, okay. So you pull on the sack, yeah. But why does that cause some kind of like a shoulder thing?
There's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of internal rotation thrown into external rotation. So it's not and there's force with it. It's not like you're just kind of doing this. It's a big movement. And over years and years and years of doing that, there's lots of rotator cuff tears, lots of shoulder arthritis, and it's almost 100% on the right side.
So it's cumulative. It's over many jumps.
Yeah. I mean, you think you got. I mean, I got a buddy that retired after he hit 23,000 jumps, and most of those were tandems. I'd say probably 20 of those were tandems. So, you know, just years and years and years of doing that is going to eventually end up screwing it up. There was one point where I think there were 12 of us that had rotator cuff repairs in the same year. So we actually started a Facebook group. It was a private group, but it was skydivers with rotator cuff tears. So we all chatted together, and usually it was somebody getting on there asking me questions. But yeah, I mean, it's that's the wear and tear of it. I mean, if you're on a computer all day and you end up, I used to see a lot of 10 keyers when I worked for another company who these people were working for a major company that sold a lot of cosmetics, and they 10 keyed on the right hand all the time, and they would all end up with carpal tunnel, trigger finger problems, things like that, from just constant use of just the one hand. So it's the repetition of it. So
yeah, so injuries like the tandem instructor getting the rotator cuff tears, the 10 keyers, like, so they're coming to you after this has already happened. Is there something other than changing their career? Is there something people can do that limits injury or even prevents it?
Yeah, obviously. So one of the things is, with the skydiver, one is they got to rest. Unfortunately, there's a rest period that needs to happen. But I like to do what's called an active rest. You stop jumping for a while where you're doing the same repetitive action, but then you start strengthening and stretching in the way. So I mean, a skydiver that's doing it repetitively is no different than, say, a baseball pitcher. The same type of trauma, or a football player, a football quarterback, or a tennis player on a serve. It's the same type of repetitive action that causes trauma eventually. So you figure out again what they're doing. If you already know, then you start just a lot of different strengthening exercises. If it's bad enough and they want to keep jumping and you get that side where it's good, a lot of times we will take our gear to a master rigger who will switch our deployment to the other side.
Ooh.
That to me would be super tricky. I mean, like I said, 23 years of skydiving, doing the exact same way over and over and over, and then having to change something like that. It doesn't seem like much, but it is. But yeah, there are some
seems
people,
like a big deal.
Yeah, there's some people that have had their gear switched over so they can continue to jump. I mean, like I said, I've had 5 shoulder surgeries. Fortunately, none of which have limited me in my jumping or climbing or anything, except for the time it needed for that to heal up. So,
yeah. Do you see the technology on skydiving evolving? Because it seems to me, as far as I can ever remember, I know it started with the military doing static line jumps, and then it evolved into the free fall. But it seems to me like the equipment hasn't really.
Oh no, it's changed a lot.
Has it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the equipment, the gear, the technology that goes into making it has changed substantially. It's safer, it's easier to use. And then the equipment itself is just much more advanced. We went from the original parachutes were rounds that you had minimal control over.
Yeah.
You could kind of turn them, but you couldn't control anything else. And then when you were landing, you just hoped you didn't break something,
Yeah.
Going from those to those same rounds being changed enough where you could actually create accuracy with your landings. They used to do accuracy competitions with those all the time. Then we went to what was called squares. Well, now our canopies aren't square at all. Our canopies are elliptical in nature. They fly amazingly. And then they started doing what's called cross bracing on the inside of those, because these are ram air canopies. So the faster they go, the more efficient they are in their movements. And knowing that it's not diving you towards the ground to kill you, it's actually wanting to fly forward and do all this other stuff, and changing the pitch on these things, and what the materials are made of, and how specific sewing patterns and cuts are done, the different types of lines that we use. There used to be just a few different line sets that you put on. Man, there's 20 or 30 literally different types of lines that are made, and the thicknesses of them and all this stuff. And so yeah, I mean, same thing like with wingsuits. Like when I first started wingsuiting, it was a suit with some materials, sewn in from the wrist to the hip and then in between the legs. Now these things have ram air wings between the legs and the arms, and they give you the flight characteristics. It's like flying a canopy, as opposed to just gliding down and hoping for the best kind of thing. So, I mean, it's just as people push the limit more, the technology changes. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad you said all that, because I didn't even realize the micro adjustments that have happened in the equipment, because I'm not close to it, right? So I think this is interesting topic. Where do you see like the equipment evolving in the next 20 years? How do you see? Is there testing being done?
Oh, there's always testing being done.
I know that's a dumb question.
Well, no, it's not a dumb question. I mean, it's there's a reason why there's so many different canopy makers, container makers, different types of devices like the AAD, which, like I said, it's a computer that's its job. It's an automatic activation device. There's several companies out there, and its job is to assume that at a certain altitude, generally somewhere between 700 and 900 feet, if you're still falling at a certain speed, that you're unconscious. And so it's there to deploy your reserve canopy for you because it thinks that you're out for some reason.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah.
When did that come out?
Oh, they've been around for years,
Yeah.
but they've gotten way better. They used to not be as good. Their I guess their percentage of working properly has gone way up.
Yeah.
I used to not jump with one. They scared me because of my very first cutaway. If I'd had one and it worked properly, I would be dead because I would have spun up into my main with because my reserve would have spun into that too. So ever since then, I was guarded against them. And then I finally started using one, and I've never had to use it, but it's in my container. It's kind of like, I guess, the old person that's like, oh, I've never been injured in a car wreck. Why do I need to wear a safety belt or seat belt?
Right.
Well, back when I was a kid, we didn't. It wasn't mandatory. Nobody needed it, or nobody was told they needed it. And now, even if the backseat people aren't wearing one, everyone gets a ticket or something like that. So, I mean, it's there because if you need it, you want it.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing. And so it's the same type deal. There are some drop zones that require you to have them if you go there. There are some that don't. That's up to them. It's not a USPA or FAA thing. I mean, it's one of those deals where it's nice to have, but it's also expensive. And I mean, they run $1,500 just for this device.
Mm-hmm.
A brand new container when I first started jumping, if you had an AAD in it, ran you about $5,000. I mean, now you're looking at almost $10,000 for all brand new equipment.
Wow.
So, it's not a cheap hobby.
Yeah.
But, once you get the equipment and once you acquire it, it's like scuba diving, right? Buying all the gear is not the cheapest thing to do, but once you have it, then you play with it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and a lot of that stuff you keep for years anyway,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it pays itself off slowly.
Yeah. I mean, in 23 years of jumping, I've had 3 full rigs. That mainly I only got rid of them because I decided to change some things. So it's not that they weren't working properly; they worked great, but I just needed to make some changes to some of the stuff I wanted to do. So,
So getting back to like the future, because you said the AAD has been out a while. Like, what do you see being something that's forthcoming in the tech scene for skydiving, advancements and materials or anything?
Yeah, honestly, man, I don't know. I kind of, something happens, I go look at it, I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. But as far as where they're going with stuff, I honestly don't know. I mean, there's so much like I said, little changes can make a big deal. But it's not I haven't really been looking into it as much. So
where do the innovations typically come from? Is that like a military thing? You're seeing them test stuff and then it goes civilian?
No, it used to be that way, but we do way more jumps than the military does. Maybe like special forces, some of their stuff, but the gear that they use is the same gear we use, and they get it from the same companies that make our gear, and I think it's more the sporting edge of it that pushes the limit more than military does. Initially, I'd probably in military, again, mainly the special forces guys, needing something to do halos with that could take the wear and tear of, jumping with an extra 200 pounds of gear and, different situations of different temperatures and stuff. But now it's more, it's flying with speed and being able to swoop through an area and glide ratios and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't know where it's going to go next, but it always seems pretty cool to find out. So
yeah, that's I'm always the tech guy. I'm always looking for like what's the cool new tech thing that's out there, and I'm looking for the future, man. I want to see the sci-fi shit that just comes out, and it's those innovations are always so slow. With the understanding that these things take a lot of time, energy, and resources, and usually people shy away from that sort of thing. In general, it's easier to just
keep doing what you're doing.
Just keep doing what you're doing because it's a thing it's a thing that works. It's a thing that now we're not having to incur any additional cost.
Yeah.
Because it's already developed, it's already figured out, and
if it's safe, then it's like that's the other thing.
Right.
I mean, if it's safe enough, if it's not, there were canopies that were coming out or containers that were very questionable way back in the day, and it's like if you needed to cut away a bad main, you couldn't, or something like that, or you struggled with it, or that's the reason why we don't use belly mounts anymore, which the military had on the rounds for the reserves.
What's the belly mount?
A belly mount is a reserve deployment system that instead of having it on your back, you would have it in the front. If you needed to release a bad main, you would then pull a ripcord off of the belly mount and punch it out. That was way back in the day.
Wow, so a chute is deploying off of your stomach?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. Ask any of the older military guys, man. Some of them have jumped them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, they've gotten away from that. But,
yeah.
Actually, the static line. Did you ever static line in the military?
No, I never did. I never jumped in the military.
I've never done a static line, so I don't know where they keep the reserve for the military based rounds. They may still be in the front. I don't know.
Yeah, I've known a large number of dudes that just got real messed up from static line jumps, and it just sounded.
You can't control it.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to do the jump school for that. I think it's just basic jump is what it's called, just so you can get your wings on the uniform and say you did it. And I wasn't interested in that because I didn't have any purpose for doing it. My job didn't require it or anything. But it was also like just all the guys that got injured and stuff. I'm like, if I don't have a need to do it, and I'm hearing all these guys getting hurt and stuff. I mean, I had broken backs, broken legs, people dying, and I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, it's not simple injuries. It's big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like the just jumping slick is what the military guys refer to it, because you're not jumping with a pack and a rifle and all that shit on you. And, that's probably what increases the potential for injury, because you got all that stuff on you.
Oh, absolutely. Anything that's a snag point can definitely be a hazard. Yeah. So even just something as simple as wearing a GoPro on your helmet creates a potential snag point that you may cut, it snags on there, you cut away your main, but now your helmet's still stuck to your head, and you got to find a way to get rid of your helmet now too before you deploy your reserve. And so, there's lots of little nuances that you need to know before you do certain things. And so again, the safety part that comes with that. That's why we don't allow anyone to jump a camera until they get to like 200 or 250 jumps. Because we want them to be able to focus on what they're doing and understand their safety concerns and stuff way before that.
I had this dream about 2 or 3 weeks ago about skydiving.
Sweet, let's go.
Me and I'm pretty sure I know the dude who it was, but again, dreams and your memory of the dream is kind of always distorted and stuff. But we were in some kind of secret lab, and the bad guy was gonna deploy a chemical weapon or something. We had to get out of there. We're like, we got to get the fuck out of here. And so like we get out of there because the guy's going to deploy it, but we knew that some of our guys were still there. And so we got out, and somehow in the dream, it's like our extraction method was to get on an airplane and go. And we get on the airplane, and we're like, oh, whew, okay, man, that was close. And then And it was one of those things like, we need to go back for our guys. Like, yeah, what are we doing? And it was like this whole thing. It was like, all right, let's go. And so we just kicked the door open on the plane and skydive out, and we're jumping. And then like in the dream, somehow we're flying over the lab, and like
you were wingsuiting.
Yeah, the geometry of the dream doesn't like apply in the real world, but like the plane had to take off and fly somewhere. But we're flying over the thing, so then we skydive in, and then that's how the dream ended. It was like.
Good dream, bro.
Yeah.
Good dream. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I used to have dreams of flying and stuff all the time, and then I started skydiving, and I don't have those dreams anymore. It's weird, but I have weird ones about climbing sometimes. But
what's a weird climbing dream you had?
Just like going somewhere and climbing, and then there's a bear chasing me or something. Just strange. I mean, it's like, wow, that bear's got some skills. He can.
Yeah, bears climb trees, and bears climb pretty steep stuff. I've seen some videos of a mother and a cub climbing what looked to me
like a 512.
No, no, nothing like
Get
that.
Those crimps up there.
Yeah. Well, they've got some pretty amazing power in those claws, in their paws. But it was probably a 5'6", 5'5", something like that. Something that like you and I could probably just free solo and not think about it. But it was some work for sure for the bears. The mother bear got up there pretty fast. The cub had to kind of figure it out, but it looked pretty sketchy.
Nice.
But I was like, whoa, I can't believe bears are like
real world skills.
It was it was vertical, man. I mean, it was it was pretty good. It was it was a jug haul for sure for like any human, but just to see bears up there doing that.
Because they don't have thumbs.
Yeah. Yeah, that power of being able to pinch into something as well as the fingers pressing down, it creates that pressure that just you can just get up the wall, man. I saw talking like about the tech stuff, like the future of a sport. They have literal rope guns.
Yeah.
So I know it's always a joke, like your good climber in the group is your rope gun, and they, they're gonna lead up the wall or whatever. But I was in a warehouse, and they it's all this cool, sexy gear for doing different missions and stuff, and I was like, see this box, I'm like, what the fuck is this thing? And it looks like this crazy massive gun
with like a reel on it.
With and it's got a reel on it, and it's way bigger than you think. Like Batman can't be real, man, because he just has the thing in his hand and he shoots it up, and it's like, and it pulls. Batman with all his gear on, he's probably over 200 pounds, and I mean, and it's pulling him, and he's just holding on to it. I'm like, that's not realistic.
But I want one. Yeah,
I totally want one. But the most advanced, I was in a pretty cool spot to see all this stuff. But they had, I was like, that's the advanced thing. But it shoots a rope on a reel, and it's probably for like, getting on a ship or something like that.
Yeah.
Getting up to the third story of a building or something like that to like get in there and do some SWAT stuff.
So does it have does it got like a hook on the end of it, or has it got like a point to shoot into something?
Yeah.
Or you can change out the tip.
It's interchangeable. It had, I don't remember what the tip looked like. It has the dart thing that'll just shoot into rock or something like that. But it also has the grappling hook one. Okay. It had like a couple of accessories. I don't remember exactly what they looked like. Nice. What it did, and we didn't get to use it, but I was like, can we play with this thing? And they're like, no, you can't take it out. And I was like, this thing is so badass. Yeah. I was like, can I have a picture of this? They're like, you can't take a picture of this.
So what you're saying is I can have a picture and I can fire it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is
that's what I'm hearing.
I can just take it home. That's one of my options, right? No pictures, no playing with it, so just take it.
So always easier to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And permission.
That's right.
Unless the government's involved.
Well, that's it, man. Yeah, it was a government situation. Yeah. So it was like someone's going to jail.
Someone's going to go hide in Guantanamo.
Yeah. Yeah, that Guantanamo thing, man. I can't believe that thing's still hanging out there.
Yeah, you got to have somewhere to put stuff, I guess.
You gotta have somewhere to put stuff.
Area 51's been compromised.
Dehumanizing to those people that are there. Like, you gotta put stuff somewhere.
Hey, I saw Harold and Kumar. It's not that bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They go to Guantanamo, right?
Yeah.
Who thought of that as a movie, man? What a crazy. There's like people being tortured there, and it's
I
like,
know.
let's make a fun movie about
let's
this.
make it funny.
Yeah, man. We didn't get to see Guantanamo's on the other side of the island.
No,
right?
we were way away from that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize. So I am very geographically stupid. I forget where things are. I forget the size of things. I had no idea Cuba was over 1,000 miles across.
Really?
Yeah. Look, apparently you didn't either. Then.
No, it doesn't feel that big because
Yeah.
we were in Havana and we went to Vinales, which is pretty much the other side of the thing. But that was only
that was
couple
way to
hundred
the west.
miles,
That was 120 miles. Yeah, we were closer. We were closer to Miami when we were in Havana than we were to Vinales.
Oh wow!
Because that was only 90 something miles. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I researched it while we were there, but or
Okay.
like right before we went. But at its widest, I think it's north to south. I think it's like 300 miles on Cuba, and from tip to tip is over 1,000 miles.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that wide, but I know that we are mostly central or west.
No, we weren't central. We were west.
Havana's
west.
Okay.
Havana's not as far west as Vinales was, but it's definitely, if you look at the map, it's a large portion of it. I mean, we weren't even a quarter of the way to central. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember in the climbing book there was another area.
Yeah.
On the east side.
Yeah, because there were two mountains. There's
Yeah.
two mountain ranges, the one we were on and then the other one. Yeah, it was funny because Chris and I, when I think you first brought up the idea of doing it, I was like, yeah, this looks like fun. And Chris had pulled up the climbing book, and we were reading on it online, and it made it look like we were going to be, climbing and staying in like lean-tos. And
Yeah.
we were going to be pretty much sleeping outside. There wasn't any electricity. I was thinking, yeah, we're going to go, just totally native, right? And so I took a water purifier. Man, I actually took like several rolls of toilet paper because I was like thinking we were going to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh wow!
And then we get there and they got Wi-Fi and stuff. And I was like, all right, this rocks. I can drink the water, and we couldn't drink the water in Havana, but out in Vinales you could drink it like nobody's problem. But yeah, so I had all this stuff, man. I had a solar charger for my cell phone and stuff, and just so we could have maps and things. And like, didn't need it. So
yeah, it was pretty easy getting around. It was a great place, man.
Yeah,
and
all those shacks we saw too that I thought were lean-tos were the drying houses for tobacco. It wasn't even.
No one even lives there yet.
Yeah, nobody lives there.
Like we don't even sleep in there. What are you talking
what's your
about?
problem?
Yeah,
Man? Yeah.
that place. Do you remember?
Where we stopped for the cigar rolling?
No, the place we stayed in Vinales what's that dude's name? Was his name Oscar?
Yes, Oscar.
Okay.
Yeah.
He had a great house, man.
That was awesome.
That's
yeah.
to all climbers going to Vinales. Go
Good
stay at
house.
Oscar's house,
Yeah.
man. They got a great setup.
Yeah, he was very climber friendly. So
Yeah.
he hooked us up.
The food was great, man.
Oh yeah.
The whole time we were there, I was like, these guys are living high on the hog, man. I mean, the food was so good. Everywhere we went.
Being able to sit on the roof and see all the mountains and stuff around there was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, the people that live in Vinales, they've got a real treasure. It's a real treat there, and
from what I understand,
it's beautiful.
That's where a lot of people from Havana go to vacation. That's like one of their vacation points, just to get away from stuff. Because there's like 3 million people in Havana.
Wow,
that place, man, it was cool to see, but God, it was just it felt. I don't want to sound, unappreciative, but it felt dirty. I mean, there was so much diesel smog, and right there next to the ocean, and you couldn't drink the water, because of all the waste that mixed in with it. You couldn't eat the fish that was fished right there out of the place because all their human waste went out into that water. And I mean, it's just eating fresh vegetables there. You couldn't get them if they already cut them. They said not to eat it, because it means it's been washed with the same water that has all the bacteria in it. So, I mean, stuff like that. But then we go out to the mountains, and it's just as clean as could be. And, do
you remember the name of that beach we went to? That off day we took to rest?
I don't remember, but it was beautiful.
That it was $8 for lobster and rice. It was like fresh caught lobster, and it was so good. And then the mojitos on the beach were like $2 or $3 or something.
Yeah,
so I mean, for like
awesome.
for $15, I had lobster and rice and 2 mojitos. And I was like,
yeah,
dude,
try that here. It's $100.
Yeah,
you know?
forget about it.
Yeah, no, man, I loved that. I told so many people about that. I had quite a few folks that were skydiving, climbing friends that actually went out there, and because I'd been like, yeah, I want to go back to that area. That I can't remember the name of the spot, but it was south that Chris and I were looking at, and it's like just amazing scuba diving there, and there's some climbing down there too. So some of my friends went down there. They went climbing and scuba diving. They took my trip, and they said it was just awesome. Like the water was just beautiful, and the people were just friendly, just like we met. You know, I mean, just super nice. And yeah, it'd be nice to be able to go back. I don't know when it's going to get reopened again. I know
let's do it, man. Let's go back.
We just got to figure out. I mean, it was opened and then closed, and I think it's still closed to commerce. So like, you know, how we were able to go down and get rum and tequila and not tequila and cigars and stuff. Like, you can't do that again. That's been
they cut that off, huh?
They cut that off. Yeah, they cut it off to where it was prior to us going. So
well, I know it's always in existence, like even for places like Iran or North Korea, you can still go to those places, but you have to have
ample reason.
Well, yeah, it's not even an ample reason. Like the reason we went to Cuba fell under providing aid to the Cuban people.
Yeah.
And because they don't allow tourism, and so we counted all of the donated gear. We brought the bolts and the shoes and the rope, and we brought all this gear for the Cuban climbing community. We called that aid for the Cuban people, which it was. It was giving away things they needed, and so I think that those still apply. There's a list of the Department of something or other. I forget what they're called, but they handle all this. It's part of the State Department, but it's like they deal with the rules that apply to people that can travel.
It was Department of Treasury, I believe. That's who we had to get our visa through too.
I think, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
which was weird. It was like, why does the Treasury care about us traveling?
Well, because previously and currently we can't spend money there. So like we can go there, but we can't go there for commerce, like buying things. So again, limiting bringing back cigars and rum. A friend of mine told me this recently, and so I had to go look it back up, and I was like, holy shit, they did change it. And I thought that so yeah, so it's stuff like that. Yes, we can go, and people have been able to go for years, even with the embargo and stuff that was placed on them. But yeah, it's more scrutinized now, and definitely the scrutiny is coming from the Department of Treasury as to what you were doing down there, how much money you spent while you were there, that kind of thing. So
lame.
True. Yeah, true. But
lame. They're such good people. I love that place, man.
Yeah, just because their government's fucked, doesn't mean that the people aren't any good. And the people are great. So.
Yeah. So, and I don't even know that the government's fucked either. I think they just do things a little bit differently. But they're not. Well, we're not at risk of going to war with Cuba. They just act differently than we do, and they're great people. It's an awesome place to go to. And I think it should be opened and lifted. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because especially like for anyone living in Florida, man, you jump on a puddle jumper and you're in Cuba in an hour. Minutes.
I mean, it's 90 miles. So
yeah,
man. It's I mean, back in the day, Bay of Pigs, all that kind of stuff was we worried about because it was a communist country, worried about Russia setting up missiles there and that kind of thing. I'm not into politics. I haven't turned my TV on in 8 months. I barely get on social media anymore. So it's like, I don't know what people are doing that much. I just look up stuff when I need to. But, I don't believe Russia has the same geopolitical impact in Cuba that they used to have when they were supportive of the regime of the time. So yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm the same sense. I think a big portion of the shutting down of or reinstating the embargoes to Cuba had something to do with Trump's alliance with some of his business partners in Miami who didn't want similar businesses in Cuba being a competition to them or something like that. So
it always comes down to money, man.
Yeah, it always does.
It always does. But
I mean, I don't have any of it, so why do I care?
Well, yeah, and I fail often to think about the financial aspects of a lot of this stuff because for me, I just want to go to a place that's pretty. I just want to go to a fun place, have a good time. I love hanging out with new people and checking it out. And so if you're going to close a place down because your buddies are scared they're not going to make enough money.
Yeah. And they're probably already multimillionaires or whatever.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
So.
I mean, what are you doing, man? Come on. Like we're hurting everyone from having a good time because you're selfish. And that's what it comes down to. Because I don't believe that Cuba or the government, its people are interested in any kind of Bay of Pigs thing. Do you know how long ago that was?
Yeah, I know.
We weren't even born. We weren't even born, man.
I'm a lot older than you. Now. I wasn't born then, too. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was so long ago, and we're holding this long memory about the thing, and it just doesn't, I don't think it applies anymore, man. I think they just want to be a good nation, good people, have a good time, and you lift these embargoes, and you're going to see them flourish and become a prosperous people.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to see that kind of thing happen. I mean, just because we don't have the same, we don't have the same outline of what politics and stuff should be over there, but with them being communists and this being a democratic society. But even as a democratic society, we are still, there's still a ruling class that definitely thinks that that's their position. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of struggle. That's funny how the politicians that are making all these rules are the same ones that are in the upper class level, that don't seem to see themselves that way, Mm-hmm. But I don't know. That's like you said. That's not my thing.
Yeah,
I'm just happy doing my thing and climbing and jumping, and as long as nobody's, telling me I can't, I guess I'm good.
Well, I think you've got an awesome life, man. That's why I wanted to have you on and talk about it because, yeah, man. I mean, you're doing all this awesome activities. You're doing, you've chosen a path and a career that helps people every day, and just hearing about how you do extra help for people that maybe don't have all the insurance for it. You're helping the dudes out at the drop zone.
You can call it what you want.
Yeah. Well, every skydiver that's listening, like, it's not a jump zone, it's a drop zone, dick. Like,
we don't fly a chute. And we don't pull a ripcord.
Yeah. Well, I think about it. I always want to try to get the terminology right because you hear you can hear you're gonna go climbing with somebody and they'll say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't like.
Yeah. It's kind of nice though. It's kind of like that's how you tell the real people from the posers too.
Right.
It's like when you go shoot a long gun. How many times have you heard? Well, I loaded the clip.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You loaded a magazine, sir.
Yeah. Show me the clip. You point to anywhere on this fucking gun where there's a clip. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the same with show me my ripcord. I don't have one on my parachute. So.
Right. Yeah, it definitely if there's anything that will help you understand what a person's skill set is, just spend 5 minutes talking to them about that thing.
Absolutely.
And you will know almost everything you need to know.
If they're BSing or if they're an actual participant. Yes.
Yeah. With skydiving, I don't pretend. I mean, I got a handful of jumps on me, so I don't.
You got more jumps than most people.
Yeah. So. No, I don't have a lot, but so I don't pretend to know the lingo, but yeah. It's
well, like I said, we all got our own language. Again, you talk to climbers, you talk to surfers, you talk to skydivers. I mean, it's literally the same group, but with just a different language. So, which is kind of fun, though. I mean, it's that definitely denotes the doers from the non-doers. So, I've had people come in. It's always funny when someone comes in, and I always ask people about their hobbies and stuff when I'm working on them because maybe their hobby is part of the reason why they got an injury or something. And every once in a while, I'll get somebody like, oh, yeah, I'm a climber or I'm a skydiver. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, you start asking them questions and they look at you like, with the deer in the headlights. You're like, okay, never mind. I'll stop asking because you are obviously making things up. So
Yeah, I've experienced that a lot with climbing. You don't get so many egos. You'll see it from time to time. But for the most part, it's a pretty humble community and stuff. But like with shooting is kind of an ego
thing,
thing with guys, and I was a instructor for 10 years in the Marine Corps, and so countless number of shooters running through my program and stuff, and because I ran the entire deal, the whole show, the whole range days and stuff, so hundreds of shooters in a day and big staff and all that stuff, and so I do the private stuff too, but I mean mainly I would just be running the program, and so you get guys like, when's the last time you fired the weapon? It's like, oh yeah, I just did it like I was just at the range a couple months ago. I'm like, okay, show me, let's see it, man. And then it's just like,
it's a cluster.
Not hitting paper, no impact, no idea, just like
having no idea how to clear a malfunction and
manipulating the weapon. I mean, you can just see the way they hold it, the way they carry themselves, and
or the ever popular muzzle fucking somebody, sweeping people.
Oh, dude, I had a day where I had a minor heart attack because we were doing. There's no real course of fire in the Marine Corps where you shoot on burst.
Yeah,
it's just not
it's always single shot. Yeah, because it doesn't make sense to shoot on burst. Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because it's awesome, but
besides that, there's no real reason except to have fun. Yeah.
Well, what I did was I would do these things at the end of if there was ever a time where we had a bunch of ammo left over. I didn't want to just shit ammo for no reason, but if there was a bunch of ammo left over and we had time, I would get a certain group of people up. I'd say, okay, all the people that qualified expert, you guys can come up here and we'll do some extra cool, sexy shit or something, right? And we'll do just shooting on burst or whatever. I'll do shooting on the move. We'll do like fire team advances. Like we'll just have fun, right? We'll just do something cool, and it's still training. Yeah. It's just it doesn't count for a score or anything, right? For the deal. So it's just like let's do some stuff because there's 4 tables of shooting packages essentially in the Marine Corps. Like table 1 is the real easy one where you're just bang, and
blinking steel or paper, and that was it.
Yeah, it hits the paper. The guy in the butts pulls the target down, marks it, scores it, brings it back. Exactly, yeah. So real easy, nice day. The weather's nice, hopefully, and you just have
no wind.
Yeah,
no birds shitting on your forehead.
Yeah. It's just a nice day. So then table 2 amps it up. Now you got all your combat gear on. You got your plates and your helmet, and your presentations are different now because you have to carry yourself differently, and it's just a different experience. So now you're doing some combat shooting, which is like introduction to combat shooting. Then you have intermediate, table 3, and then it's like advanced table 4. Table 4 is like a culmination of stuff. You're doing like offhanded shooting on the move in the dark with night vision and lasers, and it's the whole thing. Yeah. So, which obviously table 4 is like the most fun. Yeah. But for the most
wants to be.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're doing everyone wants to do table 4, right? But how often is a unit going to pay for that? Because now you got to get all that equipment out, the expense of the time and the money, and the ammo. You're shooting a ton of ammo, and so it just doesn't happen very often. So anytime we finish like a table 1 or a table 2 day, which is like predominantly 90% of like the shooting that gets done in the Marine Corps, I would say, I would argue to say, but it's then I'd have all the guys line up. Sorry, I'm digressing terribly on this, but line all the experts up, and or all my coaches, all my staff, get them out there and just do some fun stuff. So anyway, getting to the point of flagging people, we're shooting 3-round burst. Casings are going everywhere, and this one casing goes down this Marine's neck, and the thing is, you got to do if the brass hits you, just fucking don't move, don't do anything, because if your thing is to panic and move around and off, and then you start flagging people and
on full auto.
Well, 3-round burst, but it's like everyone's capping off rounds like crazy, and so brass goes down this Marine's neck and
burning the shit out of him.
It was a female Marine, but what she did, she goes down her neck, it's on her, and I saw it happen, and she turns to like try to move or whatever, and she flags the whole line next to her. She flags all of us and everything, and she still had her finger on the trigger as she's doing it. And I was like, "Cease!" I'm like, fuck. Like,
oh, jeez. That's scary, man.
Yeah.
It's like going to the range, some of these indoor ranges, and you look at the ceiling and the walls of the bays, and there's holes all in them.
Yeah.
You're like, good God,
what
have
happened?
people been doing?
Yeah. What has transpired in this range?
To put a bullet through this piece of plywood between you and me.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at it going, there's hundreds of rounds that have gone in the wrong place that aren't downrange. Or skid marks on the concrete right in front of you where something ricocheted, and you're just going, oh, God.
Yeah.
I've been in places before where people have I've seen that, and they sweep across, and you're just going, you realize this is not bulletproof material, man. You better put that down. So
yep.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, having coached it, instructed it, trained it, like done all that for years. I mean, I have.
You see the worst of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Marines are pretty good for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, like that is a one-off. Like in the 10 years, that was like my worst thing on a range that I ever saw was like someone flagging the line. The weapon was on burst, and their finger was on the trigger. That's pretty bad. But considering in 10 years, that's the worst thing that I saw.
Nobody actually got shot.
Nobody got shot. No injuries or anything like that. I mean, I count myself lucky to have been able to
keep that on your list.
Yeah.
Like I got to retire from the Marines without death on my hands.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. At least like in a training situation, right?
Yes, so a friendly fire.
Yes. Yeah. You don't want anybody getting hurt, in a training thing.
No.
It's never a good idea.
Yeah.
But, bro, I'm smoked.
Sounds good.
We're like,
this is fun.
We're like past 3 hours, I think. So.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah, it's good, man.
Man, it's Monday.
Yeah. We talked into the next day. Yeah. This was fun, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad we did this.
Fun. Yeah. It's good catching up, too.
For sure, bro.
Feels like, I can't remember the last time what was it? Several months ago was the last time I think I saw you, so.
Yeah.
And then before that, it was like a year, so.
Yeah, it's been a wacky year for me, man. I've been in a bunch of different stuff that I normally don't do and participate in and stuff. So it's I want to get back out on the rock for sure. So let's do some. Let's plan some rock time.
Sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool.
All right,
let's get out of here.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. Peace out, everyone.